I woke up in a moving carriage, drenched in sweat, with a splitting headache. An old man was fussing over me, calling me, "Young master." I had no idea who he was or where I was. The carriage hit a big hole in the road and got stuck. When I climbed out to look around, all I saw was empty wasteland and soldiers in armor guarding the carriage. That's when I panicked. This was definitely not where I was supposed to be. The last thing I remembered was getting dumped by my girlfriend back on Earth, drinking way too much, getting into a fight, and someone smashing a bottle on my head. After that, nothing. Then new memories started flooding into my brain. I realized I had transmigrated into another world called the Noah continent, a place with beastmen, elves, dwarves, sea folk, undead, even dragons. A world with knights, warriors, and mages. A world constantly at war. The body I took over belonged to a guy also named Levi. Levi Lewis, the second son of a minor baron in the Alpha Kingdom. His father had recently died, and his older brother inherited everything and kicked him out. So the original Levi took his old servant Charlie and went to Tulip City to find his fortune. There, he caught the eye of Marchioness Angelus Tulip, a famous beauty who basically married him in because of his good looks. But at the wedding banquet, the original Levi got completely wasted, made a fool of himself, and humiliated the Marchioness in front of everyone. Furious, she gave him a barren title and a piece of land and sent him away, though she didn't actually divorce him. A barren title and land sounded great, until the original Levi found out the territory was on the kingdom's northeast border, right on the front line against the Beastman invasions. He fainted from shock and never woke up. That's when I took over. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Both of us, the original Levi and me, lost our lives because of women and alcohol. What a pair we made. After thinking it through, I decided to just accept my situation. What else could I do? At least now I was a young, handsome nobleman in a fascinating world full of magic and adventure. Sure, it was dangerous, but was it really worse than the soul-crushing grind back home? So I set myself one small goal: just stay alive. Once I calmed down and accepted my situation, I asked old Charlie where we were and how far the territory was. He told me we were already in the Frostmoon province. 2 more days to reach Viscount Leon's territory, then past Grey Fortress where a battalion of the Northeast Army was stationed, and another 2 or 3 days beyond that to reach my land, Storm territory. I was stunned. My territory was beyond a military fortress. No wonder the original Levi was scared to death. This wasn't a noble's land. It was basically a frontline outpost. Old Charlie was the one person I could fully trust. He was left to the original Levi by his mother before she died. He practically raised Levi, and even after everything, getting kicked out by the older brother, getting exiled by the Marchioness, Charlie never left his side. When Charlie realized I was actually talking again, he got emotional, almost crying. I'd apparently been in a half-conscious, zombie-like state ever since learning about the territory's location. Charlie begged me to turn back and go to the capital, saying the territory must be a mistake. Several barons had already died there before me, but I knew going back wasn't an option. From the original Levi's memories, I figured out the whole picture. My wife Angelus was no ordinary woman. She'd fought off her own uncles to secure her family's title after her father died. She married the original Levi, a nobody's second son from a minor baron family, specifically to block all the ambitious nobles trying to control her through marriage. Once the marriage was official, she engineered his embarrassment at the wedding to have an excuse to send him away, and gave him a baron title so he'd have no claim to anything in Tulip territory. The dangerous location of the territory, though, that was probably someone else's doing. Killing Levi directly would give Angelus grounds to cause trouble. But if Levi ran off to the dangerous border on his own and got himself killed playing hero, well, that would be nobody's fault. So going back meant giving up the title, and without it, even Angelus wouldn't spare me. But going to Storm territory was basically suicide too. I started thinking about just running away somewhere safe and using my modern knowledge to build a new life. But right as I was planning my escape, a danger warning suddenly flashed in my mind, and a simple panel appeared before my eyes. Name: Levi Lewis. Flame breathing method: Beginner Apprentice Knight, 79 out of 100. Flame // Beginner, 8 out of 10. Horsemanship: Beginner, 3 out of 10. Super Precognition: Basic Precognition, 0 out of 100. 1 passive danger warning per day, 1 kilometer range, 3-day advance notice, plus the ability to sense hostility from people nearby. Energy essence. 0 finally. The Transmigrator's standard cheat ability had arrived. Looking at my new ability panel, I got really excited. According to the description, I just needed to raise my flame-breathing method skill to 101 to awaken my life seed and break through to a full night, skipping the need for the rare life source liquid that normally only big nobles could get through military achievements. Even better, I'd get 1 attribute point every day. That meant as long as I stayed alive long enough, there was no rank I couldn't reach, all the way up to Sky Knight, Holy Knight, or even Legendary. And my innate talent was already awakened before I even became a real knight. Normally only 1 in hundreds of knights ever awakened an innate talent. The system said I could awaken more in the future too, which was supposedly unheard of in the Alpha Kingdom. I couldn't help laughing out loud, which made poor old Charlie think I'd lost my mind again. I told him not to worry, I'd handle the territory problem. Then my precognition ability kicked in with its first real warning. 55 bandits were hiding in the bushes about 1 kilometer ahead. Among them was 1 first-rank warrior, 5 elite soldiers, and the rest were just rabble. I told the driver to stop the carriage and got out. Knight Captain Clay, the leader of the escort team assigned by Angelus, was annoyed at first. He thought I was just wasting time. These knights were from the Tulip family, only lent to me for 2 years to help set up the new territory. They weren't happy about being dragged to such a dangerous place, so their attitude toward me wasn't great. I pointed out that the bushes ahead were too quiet, not even a single bird. Clay paused, looked, and immediately realized something was wrong. He actually apologized to me, then left 2 knights to guard me, and took the other 10 forward in battle formation. I wanted to go with them. My system said I could only earn energy essence by personally killing supernatural profession holders and absorbing their soul power. I needed energy essence to awaken new talents and upgrade existing ones. There was a first-rank warrior among those bandits, a perfect target. But I was just an apprentice knight. I'd get killed trying to fight a first-rank warrior. Better to play it safe and wait until I became a real knight. Up ahead, the bandits realized they'd been spotted and charged out. Their leader, the first-rank warrior, had been told by some mysterious contact that our escorts were just mercenaries with fancy gear. Clearly a lie. Clay and his knights cut down 11 bandits in 1 charge. The bandit leader tried to sneak attack Clay, but Clay saw it coming and took his head off with a single sword strike. After their boss died, the remaining bandits panicked and scattered. Only 5 or 6 managed to escape into the bushes. The rest were either killed or captured. The fight was over in minutes. Old Charlie told me that Clay and his knights had fought in a Beastman war 4 years ago, and Clay earned his promotion to full knight through battlefield merit. No wonder they were so effective against a bunch of ragtag bandits. What puzzled me was why those bandits had the guts to charge at a well-equipped knight squad in the first place. Clay reported 23 bandits killed, 6 escaped, and 27 captured. His attitude toward me had improved a bit, probably because I'd spotted the ambush first. I praised his team, but I could still feel the distance between us. These knights blamed me for dragging them to a dangerous border territory, so I decided to be straight with them. I told them I knew they resented being sent to Storm Corner because of me, and that they had every right to. But the territory swap wasn't my doing. Someone was sabotaging us. If we worked together for the next 2 years, maybe we could all survive. The knights exchanged looks, and Clay's attitude shifted. He gave me a respectful answer and promised they'd do their duty. Then I raised the question about the bandits' strange courage. Clay interrogated one of the captured leaders, who quickly cracked. He confessed that someone had hired them to ambush us, and they'd been told our escorts were just mercenaries with fancy gear, not real knights. This confirmed what I'd said. Someone really was plotting against me. I figured it out. Whoever swapped my territory didn't want me dead inside the kingdom, because that would give Angelus a reason to cause trouble. These bandits were meant to weaken Clay's squad, so I'd die faster once I reached Storm territory. After hearing this, the knight's attitude toward me completely changed. We were all in the same boat now. Clay suggested sending someone back to report to Angelus, but I stopped him. Whoever was behind this wouldn't let a messenger reach Tulip City alive either. We had no choice but to keep moving forward. I decided to sell the captured bandits to Viscount Leon along the way. At least that would bring in some money for supplies at the fortress. 5 days later, we finally reached Grey Fortress. It sat between the Grey Mountains in a strategic position. The beastmen had tried to prevent the kingdom from building it for ages, attacking the area during every invasion. It was only built 250 years ago after a huge gold mine was discovered nearby, which convinced the royal family to send 3 whole legions to defend the construction. After the mine was emptied 100 years ago and the beastmen shifted their main attacks to other kingdoms, 2 legions were pulled out. Now only the 8th Battalion of the Northeast Legion was stationed here, led by a 5th-rank silver knight named Klein. At the fortress, I needed to collect the supplies and settlers that the royal family provided to every new border baron. It was a special policy to make sure nobles who earned frontier territories through military merit could actually develop their lands and not feel cheated. As soon as I arrived at Grey Fortress, a man named Roland came to meet me, saying he was the quartermaster and had my supplies ready. He took me to a camp that reeked. What I saw was a mess. The 1,000 serfs they gave me were all elderly, women, and children, not a single able-bodied man among them. The 50 elite soldiers were skin and bones. The equipment was garbage, practically pulled from a junkyard. The quantities were clearly short of what the kingdom's regulations required. Clay was furious and ready to explode, but I stopped him. This obviously wasn't just some quartermaster acting on his own. The battalion commander and his deputies hadn't even bothered to show up to greet a baron. That told me everything. So I smiled and asked Roland directly whether his commander or deputy commander had arranged this. He panicked and insisted he was just following regulations. That's when I played my card. I told him that since he was personally responsible, I'd need him to sign an official document listing everything, because as the husband of Marchioness Tulip, I had to report all assets to her. The moment I mentioned Angelus's name, Roland nearly fell apart. He knew signing anything meant the Marchioness could come after him personally. Seeing him squirm, I let him off easy. I told him I'd accept the supplies, but wasn't leaving the fortress just yet, so he should hold on to everything for me. I tossed him a gold coin as a storage fee and walked away. Clay was confused. He thought I'd given in too easily. I explained my thinking. Pressuring the quartermaster was pointless and would waste energy. The real play was simple. I told them I wasn't leaving until I got proper supplies. They couldn't force me out. Only the royal court could enforce deadlines. And if I was late arriving at Storm territory and it became an issue in the capital, Angelus would find out about everything. They definitely didn't want that. But I had another reason to stall that I kept to myself. I already had 7 attribute points saved up. In just 15 more days, I'd have enough to break through to full knight. The longer I stayed in the safety of the fortress, the stronger I'd be before heading into danger. So we rented a large courtyard inside the fortress and settled in to wait. That evening I had old Charlie buy plenty of wine and meat for everyone. We all deserved a good meal after the long journey. Meanwhile, I later learned that the quartermaster Roland had gone running to Deputy Commander Odin to report what happened. Odin was annoyed that I'd used Angelus's name to pressure them, but he also couldn't do much about it. He decided to wait and see, hoping I really was the foolish pretty boy he'd been told about. The next morning, I finally got a proper night's sleep for the first time since arriving in this world. I checked my panel, 8 attribute points now. Just 14 more days, and I could break through to full knight. I decided to use the waiting time to train with Clay's knights and pick up some combat experience. After a quick breakfast, I headed out with Charlie, Clay, and 6 knights to check out the fortress's slave market. I needed skilled workers for my new territory, blacksmiths, carpenters, stonemasons, bricklayers. I had plenty of modern knowledge in my head, but back on Earth I was just a salesman. I knew the theory of things, but couldn't actually build anything myself. The slave market was a nightmare. It was filthy, with waste everywhere, and the slaves sat naked in cages with dead eyes. As someone raised with modern values, I had to force myself to keep a straight face. I checked the prices. Slaves here cost about half what they did inland. A healthy young male slave was 10 gold coins, a female 5. Anyone over 35 or under 10 was just 1 or half a gold coin. Skilled craftsmen cost double the normal price. There were even supernatural profession slaves, captured warriors from noble wars who couldn't pay their ransoms. They signed voluntary contracts with set terms, and a single first-rank fighter cost 2 to 300 gold for 10 years. That price scared me right off. My total funds were only about 770 gold coins, 500 from Angelus and 270 from selling the captured bandits to Viscount Leon. After paying for food, lodging, and keeping enough for the knights and soldiers' wages, I only had around 500 gold to spend. I'd have to be very careful with my shopping. After half an hour of searching, I finally found a slave trader with the craftsman I needed. The guy was a weasel-faced merchant named Quint, but he had good stock. I negotiated a deal: 2 veterinarians, 3 carpenters, 5 bricklayers for stonemasons, and 5 blacksmiths for 450 gold coins. No haggling, but I asked him to throw in a tailor, a cook, and a barber for free. He wasn't happy about it, but when Clay mentioned I was the new Baron of Storm Territory, the trader agreed immediately. Apparently being a baron headed to a death trap earned you some pity discounts. He even offered to include the slaves' families for free. I thought that was surprisingly generous, until I saw what he meant. Just 2 middle-aged women and 2 scrawny kids, belonging to the cook and tailor. Everyone else was conveniently single. The trader had played me for a fool. I kept my cool, but made sure he knew I wasn't happy. I left 250 gold as a deposit and told him to keep the slaves fed while I stayed at the fortress for a couple more weeks. He tried to protest, but I walked off before he could argue. Then I wandered over to the non-human slave section, and my eyes went wide. There were all kinds of beast men: goblins, pig-headed ones, goat-headed ones. They were cheap because beast men were hard to tame and ate too much. The other type were subhumans. They looked mostly human but had animal ears, tails, and different eye colors. White wolf, snow lion, red fox varieties. Human society considered them cursed and unlucky, so they usually lived in beastman territory. But ironically, certain female subhumans were highly prized by nobles as luxury slaves. When I saw a white wolf subhuman woman, I almost couldn't look away. Blue eyes, pointed ears, she was stunning. I was just about to ask about her price when my danger sense suddenly fired off a warning. This white wolf woman was a 4th-rank great warrior. That was mid-tier supernatural power. Only 4 people in the entire Grey Fortress were that strong. The trader cheerfully offered her for just 1,000 gold. Way too cheap for someone that powerful, which meant something was very wrong. I shook my head frantically, grabbed Clay, and got out of there as fast as I could. After fleeing the slave market, I thought carefully about what happened. The warning hadn't triggered just from being near the wolf woman. It only went off when I considered buying her. And the moment I asked about her price, I felt intense hostility radiating from her. She would have killed me if I tried to purchase her. She was clearly hiding in the market on purpose. Back at our lodgings, I called Clay in privately and told him about the 4th-rank great warrior disguised as a slave. I explained that she was probably planted there as an inside agent, planning to help beastmen attack Grey Fortress from within. Clay was shocked, but agreed we needed to report this to the fortress leadership. The problem was figuring out who we could trust, since someone in command was already working against us. I gave Clay 10 gold coins and sent him to pump the slave trader Quint for information. Meanwhile, I spent the day training, practicing the night breathing technique in the morning and archery in the afternoon. I was exhausted by the end, but checked my panel and found nothing had improved at all. No natural talent here. But at least I had my daily attribute points to rely on. Clay came back that evening with useful intel. He'd learned that Battalion Commander Klein came from the Lincoln Duke family in the Northwest, no connection to Southern politics. Deputy Commander Odin was from a Viscount family, and Deputy Commander Corey was from the Royal Army. That made Klein the safest bet. The next morning, I went to visit Commander Klein. He immediately tried to shut down any talk about my supplies, saying it wasn't his department. But I told him I wasn't there about something so small. I asked him to clear the room, then told him straight. I discovered a beastman spy inside the fortress, a 4th-rank great warrior posing as a subhuman slave. Klein shot to his feet. If a 4th-rank warrior had infiltrated his fortress without him knowing, he'd face serious consequences whether damage was done or not. He took it very seriously. Klein didn't believe me at first. He explained that Grey Fortress had magic detection arrays at both gates. Every supernatural professional entering had to register, and anyone caught lying could be killed on the spot. A 4th-rank warrior sneaking in should have been impossible. I told him the white wolf woman probably had some kind of magic item hiding her true strength, and that he should go check for himself, quietly. I warned him not to confront her directly, or the slave market would get wrecked in the fight, and he'd have to answer for letting a spy slip past his defenses. That warning made Klein look at me differently. He thanked me and left to investigate. Over an hour later, he came back with a grim face and gave me a formal noble's bow. He'd confirmed everything. The woman was incredibly well hidden. Without my tip, they'd never have found her. He asked if I had magic detection equipment. I lied and said I had gear from the Tulip family. This was me borrowing Angelus's reputation to build up my own background. Nobody would risk offending the Tulip household just to verify my claim. Klein bought it completely. He even started theorizing that Angelus must have secret arrangements protecting me, which was exactly what I wanted him to think. Then I asked how he planned to deal with the spy. He admitted he was stuck. The woman was too alert to capture quietly, and if things got messy, his rival Deputy Commander Odin would use it against him politically. I saw my opening. I told Klein I had a plan, but I needed to know who he was worried about. He opened up. Odin was his problem. They were both 5th rank, but Odin had connections to someone powerful in the capital and was constantly scheming to take Klein's position. And conveniently, Odin was also the one who'd been shorting my supplies. My plan was simple. We'd watch the wolf woman and wait for her to make a move, signaling that her beastman allies were getting close. Then Klein would issue a military order sending Odin outside the fortress to search for beastman activity. Once Odin was gone, Klein could tell everyone the spy was actually bait. He'd planted deliberately to lure out the beastmen, and Odin's mission was to cut off their retreat. After that, we'd just need to deal with the wolf woman inside the walls. If the beastmen outside escaped, that would be Odin's failure for not doing his job properly. Klein might even be able to use it to punish him. Klein's eyes lit up. He agreed it could work. My plan for Klein was basically about shifting blame. The wolf woman spy was already inside. No hiding that. So the trick was to create a bigger story that would cover Klein's oversight. A brilliant ambush plan that failed because of someone else's mistake was much better than admitting a spy slipped past undetected. Klein raised a good concern. What if Odin actually ran into the beastmen outside? I explained that wouldn't happen. The beastmen's goal was the fortress itself, so they'd hide from Odin's patrol to avoid alerting anyone. They'd only deal with him after taking the fortress, which obviously wasn't going to happen now. Klein was so pleased that he invited me to lunch and started calling me brother. He told me to stay at the fortress as long as I needed, and once he dealt with Odin, he'd personally arrange my supplies, even better than what I was originally supposed to get. That was an unexpected bonus. 10 days passed. I spent every single day training inside the courtyard without going out once. My breathing technique went up by 2 experience points through pure practice, and I'd also unlocked basic archery on my panel after reaching the beginner level. Most importantly, my attribute points had finally reached 20. Today was the day. After breakfast, I told Charlie and the others not to disturb me until afternoon, then locked myself in my room. I'd already asked Clay about the breakthrough process. Normally, you'd take the life source liquid, absorb it, then awaken the life seed. The whole thing took less than half a day. Without needing the liquid, I'd be even faster. I dumped 19 attribute points into the flame breathing method. Instantly, a flood of training experiences poured into my mind. Years of practice compressed into moments, feeling completely real. Then my body started changing. My muscles grew firmer and radiated a faint power. My skin peeled off like a snake shedding, replaced by new skin that was smoother and coated with a transparent layer that boosted physical and magical defense. The biggest change was my heart. It started pounding faster, and all the energy in my body rushed toward it. The pain was incredible. It felt like my heart was about to explode. I knew this was the critical moment of forming the life seed. I lost all sense of time. Finally, after one last wave of agony, my heart stabilized. Then it reversed. Instead of pulling energy in, it started pumping powerful force through my blood into every part of my body. I'd done it. I was officially a first-rank knight. I opened my eyes and felt the difference immediately. The strength was unbelievable. I could genuinely beat 10 of my former selves. At this level, killing a bull with one punch would be understating it. I'd crossed from ordinary human into the supernatural. The whole process took barely an hour. I checked my panel and saw the next milestone. Flame breathing method now showed 0 out of 1,000. The road ahead had gotten a lot longer. After becoming a full knight, I checked my panel and realized reaching second rank would take nearly 3 years of daily attribute points alone. In safe territory that would be fine, but out here on the dangerous border, it was too slow. I decided I needed to earn energy essence to awaken a second innate talent, maybe something combat-related. The coming Beastman attack would be my chance. But since I was still a complete rookie with 0 killing experience, I planned to focus on archery. Sniping from a distance was much safer than fighting face-to-face. For the next 5 days, I practiced archery almost non-stop, only occasionally working on flame triple slash. I also chose to hide my breakthrough to full night. Whoever had been sabotaging me was still out there, and I wanted to keep some cards hidden. On the 5th day, Quartermaster Roland showed up, trying to pressure me about the supplies again. Clearly Odin was getting impatient. I brushed Roland off and had Clay throw him out. That night, I was woken by a danger warning from my system. In 3 days, 2 battalions of Jackal Beastmen would attack Grey Fortress in coordination with the White Wolf Woman. The force included 2 5th-rank warriors, 4 4th-rank warriors, and many others. The next morning, I went straight to Klein and passed along the intel, crediting it to Tulip family intelligence sources. Klein agreed the Beastmen couldn't stay hidden near the fortress for long, so they had to be acting soon. Klein immediately ordered Odin to take 3 companies northeast to search for Beastman activity. Odin was furious. He thought Klein was doing this to help me and punish him. He accused Klein of disrupting military order, but Klein pulled rank as the fortress's supreme commander. Odin had no choice but to obey, though he swore he'd file a complaint afterward. Klein also stationed the other deputy commander, Corey, at the north gate. Then with Odin and his troops heading away from where the Beastmen were actually hiding, everything was set. Klein assured me the remaining 700 soldiers could easily defend the fortress against 2,000 Beastmen. Apparently Beastmen were terrible at siege warfare, and the fortress could hold against forces 10 times their size. That was reassuring. I just needed to survive and find a chance to kill a first-rank enemy to start collecting energy essence. On the 3rd morning after Klein gave the order, Odin finally left with his 3 companies through the north gate, heading northeast into the wilderness. I was relieved. If he'd delayed 1 more day, everything would have fallen apart. Outside, the Jackal Beastmen scouts spotted Odin's troops leaving but decided not to change their plan. Their leader figured the humans hadn't actually detected them, since humans always hide behind their walls. They'd stick to the original strategy, wait for the White Wolf Woman to open the gates at midnight. Meanwhile, I was pushing hard on archery practice. I finally got my basic archery to 3 skill points through training, then dumped all 8 attribute points into it. The familiar rush of compressed experience flooded my mind. Thousands of arrows fired across seasons of practice, my muscles and brain absorbing every detail. When I opened my eyes, basic archery had reached 1st rank. I tested it immediately, putting an arrow clean through a target at 20 meters, piercing straight through into the wall behind it. 10 more shots, 10 bullseyes. The knights watching nearby were stunned, since just days ago I could only hit 3 or 4 out of 10. Clay suggested I try the 8th Battalion's proper archery range. At 50 meters I hit 7 out of 10. At 100 meters, 3 out of 10. That put me at elite marksman level, the same as the squad leaders in the archery company who'd trained for years. The next rank up, sharpshooter, was basically the ceiling for ordinary soldiers. I practiced a bit more to confirm my ability, then headed back and told everyone to rest up. There would be fighting tonight. Near midnight, I heard violent combat erupt in the North District. The Wolf Woman had made her move. I didn't rush over, not wanting to get caught in a battle between mid-rank fighters. The fighting sounds shifted east, then went quiet. Then the north gate lit up with fire, horns blaring, and the sounds of battle breaking out everywhere. It started. Let's go have a look. When I reached the north gate, with my night squad, the gate was shut but littered with Jackal Beastman corpses. Klein had deliberately let some in before closing the gate to make the ambush look real. Up on the eastern wall, I could see Klein fighting 2 5th-rank jackals at once without breaking a sweat. I took my squad to the western side. No way was I fighting anywhere near a 5th-rank battle. Deputy Commander Corey assigned us to help the 4th Company, which was undermanned with only about 80 soldiers and 8 professionals. They were already in trouble, for Jackal professionals had climbed the wall, with more pouring up from below. The moment I arrived, I spotted a first-rank jackal pulling himself onto the wall. Without thinking, I drew and fired. The arrow hit his throat perfectly. He grabbed his neck in disbelief and fell backward off the wall, dead. A wisp of white light drifted from his body into mine. I checked my panel, 1 energy essence point. It worked. Killing supernatural enemies with my own hands really did produce energy essence. Then reality hit me. That first shot had been pure instinct. Now that I was actually paying attention to the chaos around me, I started shaking. This was my first real battle. Company Commander Peel shouted for me to take out the other first-rank jackals on the wall. I steadied myself and shot another one through the eye. Meanwhile, Clay intercepted a second-rank jackal that charged at me, and actually pushed it back despite being only first-rank himself, thanks to his superior equipment. The jackals below started hurling stones with slings. Soldiers dropped around me. One of my knights took a rock to the chest. His tulip family armor saved him, but my legs went weak seeing how close death was. When the soldiers started retreating, Peel went all out. He took a sword hit, but unleashed a holy cross slash that cut down a second-rank jackal instantly, then rallied his troops with a battle cry. I kept shooting, picking off jackals climbing the wall, and sent half my knights to help defend. Then I spotted the last second-rank jackal trying to escape by jumping off the wall after Clay wounded its back. It was falling through the air with nowhere to dodge. I turned and put an arrow straight through its heart. Another wisp of white light, bigger this time, flowed into me. After the wall was cleared, another wave came, including a third-rank jackal. I fired 5 or 6 arrows, but couldn't stop it from climbing up. Just when I thought we were in trouble, Peel pulled out a hand crossbow that glowed blue, fired a magical bolt, and the third-rank jackal exploded into pieces on the wall. The magic crossbow that Commander Peel used was incredible. It fired a third-rank explosive bolt that completely obliterated the third-rank jackal. Clay explained that standard military crossbows were only second-rank, so Peel must have had special ammunition. After that, the jackals pulled back. I almost stuck my head out to snipe more of them for energy essence, but Clay yanked me back just before another volley of stones came flying up. That would have gotten me killed. I thanked him. I owed him one. When the stones stopped, Clay gave me the clear and I started shooting again, picking off retreating jackals. But by now the professionals had hidden themselves among the regular troops, and in the darkness I could only hit ordinary ones. Peel didn't let anyone rest. He took half his soldiers to reinforce the 9th Company's wall section where jackals had broken through. I followed with my night squad, and together we pushed them back. I personally killed another first-rank jackal, and Clay got one too. After 2 wall sections were cleared, the other defensive lines pushed back the jackals as well. Then the north gate opened and the 1st Company, the 8th Battalion's elite cavalry, charged out and tore through the retreating jackals. Their commander, 4th-rank warrior Rock, cut through everything in his path, killing 6 or 7 jackal professionals, including a 4th-rank deputy commander. While the 2 5th-rank jackal leaders were momentarily distracted by the cavalry charge, Klein seized the opening and killed one of them outright. The other panicked and jumped off the wall to flee. Deputy Commander Corey sounded the recall horn, pulling the cavalry back before they chased too far into the darkness. The battle was over. The soldiers on the walls erupted in cheers. Then the adrenaline wore off. I looked around at the severed limbs, the blood everywhere, the smell, and I lost it. I crouched in a corner and threw up everything in my stomach, bile and all. My knights watched me with odd expressions, but nobody laughed. They told me later that their own first battles had been 10 times worse. They were actually impressed I'd held it together through the entire fight before breaking down. Commander Peel found me afterward, still pale and dry heaving. He was shocked that the archer who'd performed so well was actually a first-time fighter. When I introduced myself as Baron of Storm Territory, he was even more surprised. He saluted me formally and promised to record all my battle achievements properly. I thanked him and took my squad home to rest. I fell asleep the moment I got back, completely drained from keeping my focus sharp through the whole battle. I didn't even have the typical new soldier problem of being too scared to sleep. Though the nightmares came anyway, I wasn't worried about my battle achievements being stolen. The Alpha Kingdom had an extremely strict merit system. Military judges were sent directly from the capital, all commoners with no connections, and stationed down to the company level. After recording everything, results were publicly announced for everyone to check. Anyone caught stealing or faking credit was executed on the spot. The system was simple. 20 regular kills earned a 9th class merit. One first-rank professional kill also earned 9th class, and it scaled up from there, 2nd rank for 8th class, all the way to 9th rank for 1st class merit. Accumulating enough merit could earn you noble titles. A 3rd class merit got you a barony, 2nd class a viscounty. But those lands were almost always on the dangerous frontier. Every noble family also had to submit merit to the crown every 100 years or lose a rank in their title. This brutal system was what kept the Alpha Kingdom's nobility fierce and battle-hungry. The next morning, Klein showed up early at my door, grinning like crazy. The battle results were incredible. The garrison had killed 865 jackals, including 35 professionals, 1 5th rank, 1 4th rank, 3 3rd rank, 10 2nd rank, and 21st rank. They'd also captured 34, including 2 1st-rank professionals. Our losses were only 51 dead and 8 permanently injured. It was the biggest victory Grey Fortress had seen in years. Then Klein gave me my personal tally. My group, Storm Territories Forces, had killed 5 1st-rank professionals, 1 2nd-rank professional, and 30 regular soldiers. That added up to 1 8th class merit and 6.5 9th class merits. I personally earned 1 8th class merit and 3 9th class merits. Clay got 1 9th class, and the Knight Squad earned 1 collectively, with another 1.5 shared among everyone. Klein asked whether Clay's squad should have their merits recorded under Storm Territory or under Tulip Territory. That was an important question. It would affect which noble house benefited. Clay confirmed the battle record was accurate, so I made my decisions. I converted Storm Territory's 1.5 9th class merits into 15 1st-rank explosive arrows. For the Knight Squad's collective merit, I registered it under Vice Captain Rogers' name, and Clay's merit went under his own name. When Clay tried to protest, normally subordinates' merits go to the Lord. I cut him off. Under my command, the first year's merits belonged to whoever earned them. Klein nodded approvingly and told me the 8th Battalion's collective merit would be at least 6th class, meaning about 70 gold per soldier. Since my group wasn't officially part of the battalion, we couldn't share in that. But Klein and Deputy Commander Corey had agreed to give us 500 gold as compensation, plus extra resources for Storm Territory. I asked about the White Wolf woman. She'd escaped. Rock had badly wounded her, but she was too fast and slipped over the wall. Klein joked about whether I was interested in her, but I insisted I was just sad about losing a 6th class merit. Just the merit. Definitely. Klein suggested I trade my 8th class merit for a life source liquid, normally worth 1,000 to 1,500 gold on the black market, but only requiring 1 8th class merit through the military exchange program. I agreed, and also traded my 3 9th class merits for a 1st-rank magic crossbow. Klein even lent me one from his own stock right away. After Klein left, I split the 500 gold with my team, 20 gold each for the 12 apprentice knights, 60 for Clay, keeping 200. Everyone was stunned by my generosity. Between the merits I'd registered in their names and the gold, this one trip was already more profitable for them than 10 years serving the Tulip family. I sent Clay to collect the slaves from the market and told him not to pay the trader any food fees. Klein had warned me to leave before Odin returned, so I needed to move fast. Finally alone in my room, I checked my panel. I had 13 energy essence points. The 2nd-rank jackal I'd killed had been worth 10 points, so 3rd rank would probably give 100. And 13 was enough to awaken a new talent. I hit the random awakening button and prayed for something good. The panel updated. Extreme speed, basic speed, 0 out of 100, doubles current attack speed, movement speed, reaction speed, and agility. I spent 10 points on it, leaving 3. The next awakening would require raising my base level first. But this talent was exactly what I needed, doubling all my speeds as a combat ability. Combined with my archery and precognition, I was becoming much more dangerous than my knight rank suggested. My second talent, extreme speed, was incredible. It doubled all my speeds, attack, movement, reaction, and agility. From what Clay had told me, even a 3rd-rank warrior was only about 80% faster than a 1st rank. My talent pushed me beyond 3rd-rank speed while I was still just a 1st-rank knight. Combined with my knight class being naturally 30% stronger than warriors, I could now fight a 3rd-rank warrior head-on, or ambush and kill a third-rank knight if they weren't ready. And if things went bad, I could just run. Perfect. The limitation was that awakening a third talent required reaching second rank first. But I could still upgrade my current 2 talents by hunting more Beastman professionals. That evening, Klein's guard delivered a first-rank magic crossbow and 15 explosive bolts. The crossbow was easier to aim than a bow, guaranteed to kill any first-rank enemy by surprise, and enough to scare off second-rank ones. The guard also told me Klein wanted me gone by morning. Odin had likely heard about the battle and was rushing back. The next morning, I went to collect my supplies from the warehouse and was blown away by what Klein had prepared. 1,000 serfs, almost all young and strong, with 200 young women mixed in, 400 tons of grain plus 20 tons of preserved meat, 50 prime oxen including 15 breeding cows, 100 horses, 12 of which were actual military war horses, brand new iron armor, 100 leather sets, weapons, all current military-grade equipment. The 50 elite soldiers were the real deal, battle-hardened veterans. 10 of them were disabled retirees from the 8th Battalion that Klein wanted to give a new purpose. They'd serve as drill instructors to train my 800 young male serfs into soldiers. Klein had thought of everything. He was a true brother. I stood before all 50 soldiers and made them a promise. I established Storm Territory's pension system. 30 gold coins for any regular soldier killed in action, paid over 30 years. Any professional who died in battle. I'd train one of their children into a professional at the territory's expense. That was 3 times the kingdom's standard pension. Every soldier dropped to their knees and swore loyalty on the spot. The journey from Grey Fortress to Storm Territory was about 80 kilometers along a road the kingdom had built earlier. With just the night squad, we could make it in half a day. But with 1,000 serfs and all the supplies, it would take 3 or 4 days. The first day went smoothly. We made camp before sunset, and old Charlie organized the serfs to build fires and cook. It was early spring and nights were still freezing. I didn't have nearly enough warm clothes for everyone. I organized the 50 soldiers into an infantry company and appointed 2 disabled veterans as its leaders. Parker, who was blind in one eye, and Jenkins, who was missing 2 fingers on his left hand. Both were in their early 30s, meaning they only had a few years left to break through to the professional level before their bodies started declining. I gave them a task: pick out 182 of the strongest male serfs along the way. 50 would fill out the infantry company, and the rest would begin training once we reached Storm Territory. During the rest stop, I put my 2 attribute points into Flame Triple Slash, pushing it to first rank. I didn't test it though. That would reveal I'd already become a full knight. The next morning we set out early. Around noon, my precognition fired off a warning. 1,000 meters ahead, a third-rank human knight was fighting a fourth-rank white wolf subhuman woman. It had to be the same wolf woman who escaped Grey Fortress. Was she fighting one of Odin's men? I immediately ordered Parker and Jenkins to hide everyone in the southern forest. People deep inside, supplies on the outer edge, livestock moved far away, everyone silent. They moved instantly without question. Impressive soldiers. I took Clay and the night squad into the northern woods to observe. Minutes later, 2 figures burst onto the road right where we'd been standing. The wolf woman was badly hurt, barely defending against a third-rank knight, who turned out to be Riga, commander of Odin's 3rd Company. Strange that Odin himself wasn't fighting her. Riga knocked her down. She stopped moving. He approached carefully, then pulled out a circular device and clasped it around her neck. Clay told me it was a slavery law ring, a magic item that forces someone into obedience. Then Riga noticed our fresh tracks on the road and called out for whoever was hiding to show themselves. We couldn't stay hidden, but I was curious about that slavery device, and Riga looked somewhat injured himself. I stared at the wolf woman lying on the ground for a moment, thinking, let's go out and see. Stay alert. We stepped out of the forest in battle formation. Riga recognized me immediately and sneered, calling me the pretty boy Baron. I told him coldly to take his mission and leave, but the wolf woman stays. That set him off. He decided to kill me and bring my head to Odin as a gift. Clay charged with the night squad, but Riga was a third-rank knight with enchanted armor. Their swords couldn't even scratch him. With one swing, he sent 2 apprentice knights flying. Their armor cracked open, blood everywhere. They hit the ground and didn't move. Clay called in the 50 elite soldiers to surround him, then charged again. But Riga stomped the ground, and the earth collapsed under Clay's horse, sending it tumbling forward. Clay went flying straight toward Riga's raised sword. That's when I fired my magic crossbow. Riga sensed it at the last instant. Turns out he had magic apprentice training, and blocked with his sword. The explosive bolt detonated right against him and blasted him backward. It saved Clay's life. But Riga survived thanks to his enchanted armor. He wiped blood from his mouth and made his decision. Kill me, and my soldiers would lose their will to fight. He used another earth-sinking spell to scatter the soldiers and knights, then rushed straight at me. At his speed, he only needed to dodge one crossbow bolt to reach me. I fired. He'd been watching my hands and dodged it easily, then leaped high with his sword raised, grinning. He thought he had me, but I smiled back at him. The moment he committed to his attack, I activated extreme speed. To him, I simply vanished. His killing blow cut through empty air. Before he could process what happened, I was behind him. My sword slashed across his neck, cutting it nearly halfway through. Blood sprayed everywhere. He tried to raise his arm for a counterattack, but a thrown sword from one of my knights struck him in the forehead. Riga dropped dead. Looking at Riga's body on the ground, I replayed what just happened. I'd used extreme speed to flash behind him when he jumped at me, then hit him with flame triple slash. But a third-rank knight's survival instincts were terrifying. He'd nearly dodged, even with his guard completely down. And with half his neck sliced open, he still tried to counterattack. If Clay hadn't thrown that sword into his forehead, things could have gone badly. Unfortunately, since Clay landed the killing blow, I missed out on the energy essence from a third-rank kill. That stung. Clay rushed over, stunned by what he'd seen. He gave me some honest feedback. My combat experience was lacking. After a failed killing strike, I should have retreated immediately instead of staying close to a dying enemy 2 ranks above me. I admitted the truth to Clay. I'd already broken through to full knight and had awakened an innate talent, speed. He was absolutely floored. Awakening an innate talent was the ultimate dream for any knight, happening maybe once in hundreds or thousands. A knight with an innate talent could rival a mage of the same rank. The 2 injured apprentice knights, Eric and Thomas, survived, thankfully. I told them their pay would continue, and I'd cover all medical costs. Then came the looting. Clay stripped Riga's enchanted armor off and searched his inner clothing. The haul was impressive. A 1,000 gold banknote, a magic bracelet, a sword technique manual for Holy Cross Slash, a spell scroll for the Zero-Ring Earth Sync spell, and a Silver Wolf Warrior breathing method that could train someone up to 3rd rank. No mage meditation method, though. Clay guessed Riga had learned his magic from someone else under a noble seal contract, meaning it couldn't be copied. And the fact that a noble seal was involved meant Odin's backers were at least Earl-level nobility. That was concerning, but worrying about it now was pointless. I just needed to get stronger. The best find was the magic bracelet. Clay was visibly excited. It was the controller for the slavery law ring that Riga had put on the wolf woman's neck. Whoever held this bracelet could completely control the 4th-rank white wolf subhuman. My eyes lit up. A 4th-rank warrior under my complete control? That changed everything. I immediately forgot about everything else and asked Clay how to use the magic bracelet. He said any professional could activate it with their energy, and it would give me complete control over the wolf woman. She'd obey from the heart. I put it on and activated it with my night energy. Instantly, I could sense her through the connection. She was still unconscious and weak, but I could feel the hatred burning inside her, against humans and, surprisingly, even more intensely against the jackal beast men. Weren't they supposed to be allies? I'd have to ask her about that later. Clay explained the bracelet was reusable. I could remove the collar anytime, or put it on someone else. The only limit was it only worked on 4th rank and below. I ordered Clay to clean up the battlefield and erase all traces. We needed to move before Odin tracked us down. We took a different route, skipped lunch, and marched until nightfall before crossing the Cane River into Storm Corner Peninsula. Storm Corner was a small peninsula with ocean on the north and south sides, and only one western entrance blocked by the Cane River. Beastman armies generally didn't bother invading here because both routes in were terrible, either through impassable eastern mountains or across the river. They'd send maybe 1 battalion at most. The real problems were different. A pack of powerful gale wolves had settled in the northwestern mountains and regularly attacked. and a group of Naga sea monsters had migrated to the southern coast. Between those two threats, previous barons couldn't farm safely, couldn't grow enough food, and eventually died fighting either the wolves or the Naga. To survive here, I needed to secure food production first, then use my precognition talent to deal with the Gale Wolves. On the third day, we finally saw Storm Castle, a proper military fortress built by the kingdom on a hilltop, surrounded by plains and woods. It had inner and outer sections, 12-meter walls, about 1,000 meters in circumference. The inner keep had the baron's residence and military barracks, while the outer section was living space for serfs. A reserve company had been guarding the place since the last baron died. Their captain, Pete, was so happy to see us that he practically threw the keys at me. After the handover, he refused my lunch invitation, packed up in record time, and his entire unit fled the place like it was on fire. They clearly didn't want to spend one extra second in storm territory. After the reserve company practically ran away, I stood on the castle walls looking out over my territory. This was mine now, my castle, my land. I was a real lord. I immediately started giving orders. Charlie would handle storing supplies and getting the blacksmiths to repair or make farming tools. Jenkins would settle the serfs and tell them they had 3 days of rest before spring planting began. Miss the season and everyone starves. Parker would inspect the entire castle for structural problems and get the masons working on repairs. Then Clay and I rode out to survey the surroundings. My real goal was using my precognition to check for dangers within range. I went south to the coast first, since Naga were the most frequent threat. I rode all the way to the shore without a single warning, meaning the dangerous ones were all beyond 1 kilometer deep underwater. The coastline turned out to be a small bay, sheltered by tiny islands, almost like a natural lake, perfect for fishing and gathering sea resources, if only the Naga weren't there. Clay told me that Naga lived in family tribes. If driven out, they'd relocate somewhere else and probably wouldn't come back for 2 or 3 years. That gave me an idea: clear them out after spring planting, then use the bay's resources to survive the hardest period. I checked all 4 directions. No danger warnings within 5 kilometers of the castle. Then I examined the farmland. Previous barons had cleared about 1,000 acres of rice paddies north of the castle along a small river, and another 1,000 acres of dry fields to the west. I did the math. Current yields would produce only about 210 tons of grain per year, but feeding my soldiers, serfs, and everyone else would consume around 350 tons. Even with the grain Klein gave me, I'd barely last 1 year. By next year, I'd face a serious food shortage. More farmland couldn't be planted in time to help. That night, I sat in the study making plans. For farming, use the 800-plus laborers and livestock to handle the existing 2,000 acres while simultaneously clearing another 2,000 acres around the castle. Later, I'd build irrigation channels to convert dry fields into higher-yield paddies. For the military, I'd select 182 of the best young serfs as recruits. 12 would form a new night squad using the warhorses and iron armor Klein had slipped me, trained with my flame-breathing method. I'd promote Vice Captain Roger to lead them and lend him the life source liquid from my merit exchange. He'd pay it back with his own merit later. The remaining 170 recruits would train using the Silver Wolf breathing method I'd taken from Riga. 18 with archery talent would form 2 archer squads, and the rest would split into 2 infantry companies. Parker's veterans getting shields, leather armor, and swords as an elite unit, while Jenkins would lead a new spear company. Once everything was set up, Storm Territory would have 2 night squads, 2 archer squads, 1 elite infantry company, and 1 spear company. 3 professional knights once the life source liquid arrived, plus the 4th-rank wolf woman once she woke up. Enough to defend the castle against a beastman battalion. The next day, I called all my military leaders and old Charlie together for a planning meeting. I put Charlie in charge of spring planting and land clearing. I told him to record exactly which serf was responsible for which acre of land. Anyone who messed up would be punished, from whipping to having their food cut in half. Good workers would get rewarded with meat. I also had him organize the serfs into groups of 10 who'd eat, sleep, and work together, watching each other. If one person ran, the other 9 would be punished. It was a harsh system, but necessary for the future when our population grew. I gave Roger the life source liquid I'd earned with my 8th class merit. Lending it to him, so he could break through to full knight. He just had to pay it back with equivalent merit later. He was overjoyed. He'd been stuck at peak apprentice level for a while, unable to earn enough merit under the Tulip family. I appointed him captain of the new knight squad and gave him 3 months to make them battle-ready. Will and Lori, 2 veterans with leg injuries, would each lead an archer squad and handle wall patrols. Jenkins would take charge of the new spear company with 3 veteran assistants. Parker's infantry company would guard the southern coast against Naga incursions. And Clay's night squad would patrol the border where the peninsula met the wilderness, watching for gale wolves or beastmen. I handed out training manuals I'd written based on military drill methods from my previous life, basic formation exercises to build unit cohesion and discipline. After everyone left to pick their soldiers, I checked on the 2 injured knights. Eric and Thomas had only been knocked unconscious by the impact. No internal damage. 10 days of rest, and they'd be fine. Then I sensed through the magic bracelet that the wolf woman had woken up. I went to her room. She tensed up the moment she saw me, fierce and hostile. But when the bracelet glowed, her expression went blank for a moment, then softened. She called me Master. I told her to call me Sir instead, then asked her name. Mia, she said. I asked about her past and why she hated the jackal beastmen so much. Mia told me her story. She was from a white wolf tribe living at the eastern edge of the Wilderness Mountains. 2 years ago, a pack of gale wolves forced them to relocate to a misty valley in the west, a place permanently shrouded in fog where no beasts or beastmen ventured. But 6 months ago, 3 jackal battalions had gotten lost in the fog for months. When the mist receded, they stumbled onto Mia's tribe by accident. They took over, killed her father, and used her people as hostages to force her into infiltrating Grey Fortress. After she failed and escaped wounded, she ran into Odin's cavalry, and then me. She told her story shifting between grief, anger, and helplessness. From Mia's story, I pieced together a lot of important intelligence. The Jackal Beastmen actually had 3 battalions, not 2. They'd gotten lost in mysterious fog during last year's invasion and missed the battle, so they were too scared to return to the Beastman grasslands. 2 battalions attacked Grey Fortress, trying to earn redemption, while the 3rd stayed behind at Mia's village to play King of the Mountain. As for Mia's encounter with Riga, the retreating jackals had run into Odin's forces. After a costly battle, Odin's 3 companies wiped out the jackal survivors, though the 5th-ranked jackal leader escaped, and Odin himself was badly wounded. That explained why Riga chased Mia instead of Odin. She also overheard that Odin wanted to capture her alive as a gift for some unnamed, important person. But the most alarming news was about the Gale Wolves. Mia's tribe knew them well. The pack numbered over 500 wolves, led by a 7th-rank wolf king with dozens of 4th through 6th-rank wolves underneath. They'd been driven to the eastern mountains after angering a 9th-rank dragon deeper in the wilderness. After arriving, they'd bullied every tribe in the area, then lured the local top predator, an 8th-rank black and white giant bear, into a narrow canyon and nearly killed it through sheer cunning. Even though the battle cost them half their numbers, nobody dared challenge them anymore. I immediately sent someone to catch up with Clay and warn him, do not engage any Gale Wolf under any circumstances, not even a lone one. These wolves were insane. Previous barons probably died because they provoked the pack. How was I supposed to deal with them? I couldn't fight them, couldn't drive them away. For now, all I could do was hide behind the castle walls whenever they showed up. Mia's internal injuries would take about a month to heal, fast for a subhuman, though a human would need a year or more with the same wounds. I told the servants to take good care of her and give her extra meat. After that, I gathered the craftsman slaves and tried explaining concepts like rammed earth and brickmaking. Complete failure. These people had zero ability to think creatively. They only knew how to copy exactly what they were taught. When I told them to try having their own ideas, they shook their heads frantically, saying their fathers and masters would beat them to death for thinking independently. That was frustrating. Without proper building materials, half my construction plans were impossible. I'd have to experiment with them personally later. For now, I gave the carpenters and blacksmiths drawings of water wheels and curved plows, things that were simple enough to build from a sketch. They studied the pictures and seemed to understand. A few practice attempts and they'd have it figured out. Then I made them an offer. Finish these tools in time for spring planting. and I'd free them from slavery and make them commoners of Storm Castle. Their eyes went wide, and they dropped to their knees, thanking me profusely. I told the stonemasons and bricklayers the same deal. Whoever figured out how to make proper bricks first would not only become a commoner, but would also get a wife with commoner status. They all rushed off with fire in their eyes, eager to start working. Watching them go, I muttered to myself, now that's more like it. People should have some life in them. 3 days passed. The blacksmiths had successfully built the curved plows, though we were short on iron. I had to melt down some useless old tools just to make enough. The water wheels still weren't right, but after my suggestions, the carpenters were close to getting them working. On the 5th day at Storm Castle, I gathered everyone in the military training grounds, 233 soldiers and 818 serfs. What I saw was not impressive. The serfs were huddled and slouching, the soldiers barely standing in formation, and the whole camp was filthy and reeked. I started with 3 hygiene rules for the military. No relieving yourself anywhere except designated latrines. Violators get punished regardless of rank. Everyone must bathe every 2 or 3 days and keep their sleeping area tidy. The barracks and training grounds must be cleaned daily on rotation. I appointed a duty officer to inspect everything. This world's hygiene disgusted me, and now that I had my own territory, I was going to fix it. Once the soldiers developed good habits, I'd have them enforce the same standards among the serfs. Then I announced the military compensation system. First-rank professional officers would earn 10 gold per year, with 2 gold annually if medically retired, plus guaranteed employment. Regular officers got 5 gold, elite soldiers and apprentice knights got 1 gold, and ordinary soldiers got half a gold coin. Every rank included injury retirement pay and job placement. The pension system I'd promised earlier stayed the same. 30 gold for fallen soldiers paid over 30 years, and free professional training for the children of fallen professionals. War merits from Storm Castle soldiers would belong to me, but I'd reward them with 1/3 of the equivalent gold value. The 50 veteran soldiers and officers were thrilled. These benefits were several times better than the kingdom's military offered. But the serf recruits still looked lost, since none of this applied to them yet. So I announced a special rule. Any serf who earned half a 9th-class merit or trained their breathing method to the beginner level would immediately become a commoner, with full military benefits starting that same day. Their eyes caught fire. They went from looking terrified to more excited than anyone else in the camp. After letting them celebrate for a moment, I turned serious. Generous rewards came with harsh punishments. Failing duties, slacking in training, or deserting in battle meant expulsion from the military with a 3-generation ban at best, or execution with your entire family permanently enslaved at worst. I offered anyone who wanted out a chance to leave right now. No consequences. Nobody moved. Then I turned to the farming serfs and announced their path to freedom. 5 consecutive years of completing their assigned work, even through natural disasters, and they'd become commoners. Commoners would receive their own land. 5 acres of paddy field for men, 3 for women, with only a 50% harvest tax and no head tax. They could also volunteer for the military during the next recruitment. After I announced the new incentive systems, Storm Castle came alive. The serfs actually started smiling, probably because they had hope now, and I never cut their food rations. Their work efficiency shot up dramatically. They finished plowing all 2,000 acres in just 3 days, and the entire spring planting process, deep plowing, furrowing, seeding, watering, took only about 15 days total. After that, most of them moved on to clearing new farmland. 15 days into spring planting, I had 21 attribute points saved up. I dumped them all into basic archery, which maxed out at 2nd rank. I was now officially at sharpshooter level, the ceiling for basic archery. I'd need an advanced archery manual to go further. Among the new recruits, 2 stood out. Hill had already broken through to apprentice knight using the flame breathing method, and Martin had reached elite soldier level with the Silver Wolf method. Both immediately earned commoner status and better benefits, which drove everyone else to train even harder. 2 archers named Ron and Yuri also showed good talent. Before I could enjoy my archery breakthrough, Parker sent word that Naga and sea monsters were moving inland toward the castle. I had Jenkins recall all the serfs inside the walls, then led the new knight squad, both archer squads, and 50 spearmen south to reinforce Parker. The sea monsters were mostly pathetic, short, scrawny creatures armed with stone knives and shells. Parker's veterans were cutting through them, but the formation was messy. Half his troops were raw recruits with barely 2 weeks of training, and Parker wasn't an experienced commander. I noticed the Naga professionals were hanging back, apparently using the sea monsters as expendable fodder, so I decided to try my hand at commanding. I reorganized the troops, 50 shield bearers paired with 50 spearmen in 2 alternating rows. I called out a rhythm, and they stabbed in unison, one row thrusting while the other reset. The coordinated formation worked incredibly well. Even the new recruits calmed down when they had clear, simple orders to follow. Parker and Roger watched with their jaws hanging open. When sea monsters tried flanking us, I directed the 2 archer squads to cover each side. When they started breaking through, the reserve troops intercepted them. Then a first-rank Naga professional came within 100 meters. I raised my bow and put an arrow through its face. Dead instantly. A wisp of white energy essence light floated into me. Now that was worth fighting for. After I killed the first Naga professional, the others got cautious. But their size gave them away. Bigger body meant higher rank. I spotted a second-rank Naga and fired. It blocked my first arrow with its spiked club, but I immediately fired 2 more. It blocked the second, but the third hit its throat. 2 kills in under a minute, earning me another chunk of energy essence. The remaining Naga professionals were so terrified they dropped flat on the ground. They'd figured out there was a sharpshooter among us. I told Roger to hurry and clear out the sea monsters before the Naga called for reinforcements. We finished up and rushed back to the castle. But Clay's squad had also returned early with bad news. About 20 or 30 Gale Wolves were heading our way, led by a 5th-rank wolf. Then Roger reported that the Naga were coming back too, in force this time. 2 4th-rank, 3 3rd-rank, over a dozen lower-rank professionals, and nearly 500 sea monsters. I almost laughed at how ridiculous this was. Not a single enemy for weeks, and now everything attacks at once. There was nothing I could do. The Gale Wolves couldn't scale 12-meter walls on an uphill slope, and the Naga had no siege capability whatsoever. I told Clay and Roger to hold the walls, and went inside to rest. The Naga arrived, sent their sea monsters to attack the walls twice, accomplishing nothing except wasting some of our rocks and logs, then gave up and marched north around the castle. My heart sank. The freshly planted fields were that way. About an hour later, Clay heard massive wolf howls from the northern river valley, followed by Naga screams. The Gale Wolves and Naga had run into each other and were fighting. I sprinted to the north wall. From the west side, I could see Naga and sea monsters fleeing desperately toward the ocean with the wolf pack chasing them down. By the time they passed our castle heading south toward the beach, the Naga were down to fewer than 10 professionals and maybe 100 sea monsters. The wolves were down to about 20, but every single one was at least 2nd rank. The weaker ones had probably died in the river valley battle. Even the 5th-rank wolf leader had a fresh wound across its eye. They really went at each other hard. I muttered. I grabbed Clay and Roger, and we sneaked out to a hilltop about a kilometer from the beach to watch. The battle on the shore was brutal. The Naga had sent out their own 5th-rank fighter, and both sides were tearing each other apart in the surf. Every surviving wolf was 2nd rank or above, making even 20 of them a devastating force. I made a mental note to build a telescope as soon as possible. For now, I watched the carnage unfold from a distance. I watched the battle from our hiding spot for over half an hour. The Gale Wolves were absolutely insane. They fought to the death even when they were clearly losing. The Naga eventually got scared and retreated into the sea. By then, only 5 wolves remained. The 5th-rank leader, 2 3rd-rank, and 2 2nd-rank. The Naga losses were horrifying. Over 500 sea monster corpses covering the entire beach, and even one of their 5th-rank fighters was dead. Just when I thought the wolves had won, a trident flew out of the ocean and pinned a 3rd-rank wolf to the ground. A massive 6th-rank Naga leaped onto shore. I nearly lost it. A 7th-rank wolf pack, a 6th-rank Naga tribe. What kind of nightmare had I moved into? I was seriously considering relocating when my danger sense exploded. An injured 8th-rank black and white giant bear was heading straight toward us from the east, less than a kilometer away. A deafening roar shook the air. I whispered to Clay and Roger that it was the 8th-rank bear. They went white as ghosts and flattened themselves on the ground. The bear charged right past our hill toward the wolves. The fifth-rank wolf leader didn't even make it a kilometer before the bear caught it. Within minutes, every remaining wolf was dead. The bear roared at the sky in triumph. Then I actually got a good look at it, and my brain stopped working. A giant panda. It was literally a giant panda, black and white fur, huge dark circles around its eyes, except it was 5 meters tall. Clay whispered that black and white giant bears were high-tier magical beasts on par with dragons. Adults reached 8th rank, fully mature ones hit 9th rank, and bear kings could reach legendary level. The bear turned and looked straight at our hiding spot. We were drenched in cold sweat. It started walking toward us. On its way, it roared at the ocean, and the 6th-rank Naga instantly dove underwater and vanished. Every sea monster followed. The entire sea went calm in seconds. We jumped on our horses and split up, running in 3 directions, hoping at least 1 or 2 of us might escape. The bear watched us scatter, seemed to think about it for a moment, then leaped and landed right in front of me, cratering the ground. My horse collapsed on the spot. Clay and Roger turned back to help me, but a single roar from the bear froze them in place. I was preparing to die when a young male voice appeared in my mind. "Relax, kid. If I wanted to kill you, you'd already be dead." I stared at the bear in disbelief. Magical beasts were supposed to need 9th rank power to use telepathy. "Big brother bear, you're only 8th rank. How can you?" "First, call off your guys before they do something stupid." I immediately waved Clay and Roger back, then put on my most respectful face. "Whatever you need, big brother, I'll do my best to help." The bear gave me an amused look. "I've got a grudge against those Gale wolves. How about you go kill the Wolf King for me?" My expression froze. I managed an awkward smile. I knew the giant panda was messing with me about killing the Wolf King, but all I could do was laugh nervously and admit I couldn't do it. The bear was curious how I knew about its feud with the wolves. I told him about Mia, the white wolf subhuman. He seemed satisfied and introduced himself as Storm Panda. "Call me Panda, not Big Brother Bear. I'm not one of those stupid earth bears." Then he laid out his cooperation terms. "First, get him human liquor, as much as possible. Second, find him fire attribute magical beast crystals, 6th rank or above, to help restore his strength. Third, keep watch on the Gale Wolf King, who was close to breaking through to 8th rank." This wasn't cooperation, it was extortion. I tried to explain that I was broke, weak, and my only fighters were 2 first-rank knights and an injured 4th-rank subhuman still bedridden in my castle. Panda stared at me for a long moment and said 3 words: "Useless. Poor. Pathetic." I couldn't really argue. A single 6th-rank crystal cost 200,000 to 500,000 gold. Only the great noble houses could afford that. When Panda said maybe we couldn't cooperate after all, I panicked. My life was literally in his paws. I blurted out that I could brew the best, strongest liquor in the human world, and that once my territory was stable, I'd earn enough money to buy him those crystals. The moment I mentioned the strongest liquor, everything changed. Panda crouched down with sparkling eyes, suddenly looking like an excited child. He forgot all about the crystals and the Wolf King. I explained I could buy cheap low-grade wine from Grey Fortress and distill it into something far stronger than anything he'd ever tasted. He'd only ever had terrible Beastman fruit wine, so even basic distilled spirits would blow his mind. He was disappointed it would take a month, but accepted. Then he announced he was coming back to the castle with me. I looked at his 5-meter body and pointed out he might scare my people to death. Without a word, he shrank himself down to the size of a human head, absolutely adorable, and hopped onto my shoulder. "This work? Let's go." I was stunned. High-tier magical beasts could not only use telepathy below 9th rank, but also change their size freely. Incredible. As we rode back, I noticed all the wolf and naga corpses scattered everywhere and asked if he wanted them. "No. Wind and water attribute. Useless to me. No magic cores either. But save me the 5th-rank wolf's meat. I eat meat occasionally." My eyes lit up. All those corpses, the naga professionals, the remaining wolves, hundreds of sea monsters, they were all mine for the taking. What an unexpected windfall. The dead wolves and naga were a gold mine. Gale wolf pelts, bones, and magic cores were all valuable magical materials. Their meat contained magical energy that could speed up a warrior's training. The naga and sea monsters had no cores, but their scales made excellent material for enchanted leather armor. Since Panda didn't want any of it, I immediately sent Clay back to bring people to collect everything from the beach and from the northern river valley where the earlier battle had happened. Then Panda casually mentioned he'd already warned the Naga that this was his territory. If they didn't want to die, they'd better leave. If they caused trouble during our cleanup, we could just drop his name. That was the best news yet. With the Naga gone, the bay was ours. The food shortage from damaged farmland could be solved with sea resources. We could safely expand our fields. As long as I kept Panda happy, the Gale Wolf problem might get solved too. My territory could finally develop properly. I asked about his injuries. Without fire attribute magic cores, recovery would take 5 to 10 years. With 30 to 56th rank fire cores, he could reach 7th rank in a year and 8th rank in 3. Each of those cores cost 200,000 to 500,000 gold. I couldn't afford even one. Better focus on the liquor. Panda asked me to get him fresh bamboo from a grove 10 kilometers east and some honey. He also wanted a courtyard to himself. I arranged everything. Soldiers to guard his space, Parker to fetch bamboo and honey, and promised to plant bamboo in his yard. Then he fell asleep on the ground like a cat. A terrifying, adorable, 5-meter-tall cat that could crush cities. I told Charlie to have the serfs repair the damaged fields tomorrow and replant what they could. I also told him those damaged plots would count as completed for this year. No punishment for things beyond anyone's control. Then I asked Charlie for any alcohol in the castle. He found 1 barrel of terrible wine left by the previous baron. Perfect. That night, I set up a crude distillery in the kitchen. Using the basic distillation principles I remembered from school, I put the cheap wine in a sealed clay pot inside a water-filled iron pot, connected bamboo tubes for the vapor to travel through, wrapped them in wet cloth for cooling, and started heating. Charlie and I worked until deep into the night, experimenting with different temperatures. Finally, we produced something around 40 or 50% alcohol. The taste wasn't great since the base wine was garbage, but it was leagues beyond anything this world had ever seen. It was past midnight, but I grabbed 2 jars and headed straight for Panda's courtyard. No point waiting until morning. I sealed off the kitchen and had Clay bring the bamboo to Panda's courtyard. The bear was dead asleep and wouldn't wake up to my shouting until I opened the jar of distilled liquor. He shot upright instantly. Without a word, he grabbed the jar and downed 5 pounds of spirits in a few gulps. More? I handed him the second jar and explained this was all I had. I need to send someone to Grey Fortress to buy more wine for processing. He was thrilled, calling it the best drink he'd ever had. He even offered to let me work for him and promised nobody would dare bully me. As he switched to sipping slowly to make it last, nibbling bamboo between drinks, Clay and I quietly left the courtyard. I breathed a huge sigh of relief. We'd tamed an 8th-rank magical beast with cheap booze. Clay was still in shock. This creature might even have the potential to become a legendary bear king someday. I told him not to overthink it and just be glad we were alive. The next morning, I checked my panel. 14 energy essence points, still far from enough to upgrade my talents. The Naga were about to relocate thanks to Panda's warning, so that source of energy essence was drying up. At the morning meeting, Charlie reported the bad news. Over half the rice paddies in Storm River Valley had been destroyed. The dry fields to the west were fine. That hurt. Those paddies were our main food source. But Clay's report on yesterday's haul more than made up for it. 28 Gale Wolf corpses, including 1 5th rank, 6 3rd rank, 10 2nd rank, and 11 1st rank. 36 Naga professional bodies, including 1 5th rank, 3 4th rank, 7 3rd rank, and more. Plus 12 sea monster professionals. Everyone in the room gasped. When those creatures were alive, they could have wiped out Storm Castle a dozen times over. I decided to keep all the wolf meat and bones for training purposes, plus the 5th rank wolf's magic core. Everything else would be sold. Clay had already calculated. Pelts, scales, and magic cores from everything we were selling came to roughly 15,100 gold coins. The room went silent. Nobody there had ever seen that kind of money in their lives. Even Roger, who came from the Tulip household, was speechless. One lucky day of other people's battles had made us rich. I finally understood what it felt like to get rich overnight. Yesterday, I had a few hundred gold coins. Today I was worth over 15,000. But hoarding money in this world was dangerous. I needed to convert it into military strength fast. I gave everyone their orders. Parker and Jenkins would process the hides and scales. Charlie would get the damaged fields replanted, Roger would monitor the Naga's departure, and Clay would clean up the wolf scent around the castle, using purification water before resuming border patrols. Then I planned my shopping list. 2 new companies needed equipping. 100 sets of leather armor and 100 swords for 5,000 gold, 100 spears for 500, and supplies for 3 new archer squads for 610. I'd also buy enchanted armor for Clay and Roger at 400 gold total. Then 500 young male serfs and 500 young female serfs for 7,500 gold. That came to about 14,000 gold, leaving the rest for grain and, most importantly, cheap wine for distilling. Right on cue, a tiny panda bear flew through my door and landed on my desk. Got any more of that liquor? I explained again that the castle was completely dry. I showed him my purchase plan, 10 tons of cheap wine that I could distill into over a ton of the good stuff. He was very pleased, though he couldn't actually read the document. He told me he'd be moving to the bamboo grove 10 kilometers east instead of staying at the castle. He didn't like staying small all the time, but he promised to sense any 6th-rank threat and come help immediately. I pushed my luck and asked about 5th-rank threats. He gave me a look. Am I your pet? Your castle can handle most 5th-rank creatures. But if you insist on my help, 1 6th-rank fire magic core per 5th-rank kill. 1 7th-rank core per 6th-rank kill. Good deal, right? That meant I'd need to find something even stronger to pay him for killing something strong. Absolutely not. What about the 7th-rank Wolf King? If it comes, I'll be waiting on the islands outside the bay. 7th-rank beasts can't fly, so it can't reach me. If it breaks through to 8th rank, well, send me all the liquor you've got. He yawned and flew away. Over the next 3 days, the veterans processed all the corpses. Even better, the Gale Wolf meat helped Mia recover ahead of schedule. She was back to full 4th-rank strength. I recalled Clay from patrol and prepared a trading expedition to Grey Fortress. I'd bring Clay, Mia, and a full company of soldiers to sell everything and buy what storm territory needed to grow. The next day, I picked 50 soldiers from the infantry and spear companies, put them under Vice Captain Creel, the best of Klein's original veterans, and set out for Grey Fortress. The trip took 2 days with no trouble. Before entering the fortress, I hid half my soldiers 3 kilometers outside with Mia in command. A 4th-rank subhuman walking into the fortress would only cause problems I didn't need. At the north gate, I ran into Captain Peel from the 4th Company, the same unit I'd fought alongside during the Jackal attack. He was surprised to hear I'd broken through to full night. I could tell he was already recalculating how dangerous I was now that I'd combined that with my sharpshooter-level archery. I'd hidden the valuable Gale Wolf pelts and Naga scales under a layer of ordinary hides on the cart. Gate soldiers only registered people, not cargo. My arrival naturally caught Odin's attention. He ordered his men to follow and report on everything I did outside Klein's residence. He was still furious from everything that had happened. From Klein, I got the full story of Odin's disaster. After being sent out on his search mission, Odin had stumbled onto the retreating jackals and fought a brutal battle. He'd personally held off a 5th-rank and 4th-rank jackal while sending Riga to chase the wounded wolf woman, even giving Riga a precious 4th-rank slavery law ring to capture her. The result was catastrophic. His 3 companies took 60 casualties between dead and disabled. He got badly wounded himself. Riga never came back. No wolf woman, no slavery law ring, and he lost a 3rd-rank knight captain. When he returned to the fortress, Klein reported him to Northeast Legion headquarters. He was docked a 6th-class merit and had to pay compensation to the 60 soldiers' families out of his own pocket. Then he learned that the pretty boy Baron had earned significant war merits during the very battle he'd been excluded from. Klein was thrilled about all of it. Since Odin had been assigned to Grey Fortress, he'd been nothing but trouble, and this was the first time Klein had gotten the upper hand. I quietly felt a tiny bit of sympathy for Odin. He'd lost soldiers, lost face, lost money, and unknowingly gifted me a 4th-rank warrior, a set of enchanted armor, a magic bracelet, 1,000 gold, and several skill manuals. After some small talk, Klein filled me in on what had happened since I left. Odin had lost control of the 3rd Company after Riga's disappearance. Klein installed his own man as the new captain and purged all of Odin's loyalists through proper procedures. The only reason Odin wasn't completely ruined was that his powerful backer in the capital had intervened. Even so, he'd only gotten away with losing 1/6 class merit. Then Klein asked why I was back so soon. I told him I had things to sell, but no connections in the fortress, so I needed his help. When I pulled out 27 Gale Wolf magic cores, 6 third rank, 10 second rank, 11 first rank, Klein's eyes nearly popped out of his head. Previous barons had all died trying to deal with those wolves, and here I was with a pile of their cores. Then I showed him the inventory list. 28 wolf pelts including a 5th rank one, plus dozens of naga and sea monster scale hides ranging from 1st to 5th rank. Klein looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. He asked if I'd wiped out the wolves and naga. I shook my head and told him the truth, mostly. I explained that the naga attacked my farmland. Then a pack of gale wolves showed up, and the two groups fought each other to near destruction. By the time I arrived, only the weaker ones were left, and I'd killed a few myself. The rest were just bodies I collected. I left out the 6th rank naga and the 8th rank giant panda, obviously. Klein stared at me for a long moment, then declared I must be blessed by the Dawn Goddess. The problems that had killed every previous baron had just solved themselves. I moved on to business. I had a shopping list. 1,000 serfs, weapons and armor for expanding my army, grain, and cheap wine. I handed him the list. Klein called his steward to calculate everything. He offered to buy all my materials himself at fair prices and handle all my purchases too, saving me the trouble of running around. After the math was done, my sales covered all my purchases with about 1,000 gold coins left over. I agreed on the spot. Selling to Klein was the safest option. No risk of word getting out about how much wealth Storm territory had suddenly acquired. After agreeing on prices with Klein, I asked him to keep the deal quiet and deliver my purchases to the Cane River rather than handing them over inside the fortress. Klein understood. He figured it was related to Angelus's political enemies. He didn't mind, since the Lincoln Duke family's reputation kept anyone from messing with him directly. He just asked that I bring future goods to him first. We toasted to our partnership. Klein treated me to what passed for good wine in this world. It was terrible. The next day, I had Captain Peel show me around the fortress on his day off. I chatted with merchants to understand what goods were in demand, useful information for future money-making plans. Meanwhile, from the moment I left Klein's residence, I could feel hostile gazes following me everywhere. Odin's people. So I had Creel and a few soldiers watch Odin's mansion. That afternoon, Creel reported that Odin had sent his personal guard captain, a 2nd-rank warrior, heading east into the Grey Mountains. He never came back. The Grey Mountains were full of bandits and wild men, runaway serfs and deserters who'd become outlaws. They survived because someone inside the fortress was protecting them. Odin was obviously hiring them to ambush me on my way home. I wasn't too worried, though. The bandits couldn't be too powerful, or the kingdom would investigate everyone in the chain of command. After 2 more days of waiting, Klein's supplies were finally ready. I said my goodbyes and arranged for delivery to the Cane River in 2 days. Once we left the fortress, I set up a precaution. I switched clothes with a soldier of similar build, had him pretend to be me marching with Clay's group on the main road, while I secretly joined Mia's hidden group on a back road. The 2 groups stayed 500 to 800 meters apart. The first day was quiet. The second day at noon, my danger sense went off. 200 bandits ahead, including a 3rd-rank warrior, a 2nd-rank warrior, 2 1st-rank warriors, and 50 elite soldiers. Odin had gone all out. A 3rd-rank fighter leading bandits was serious enough that if discovered, it would cost him his head. Clay's group was only about 400 meters from the ambush. I immediately sent a runner to warn them. Clay stopped and formed a defensive position. The bandits realized they'd been spotted. A masked man in black, apparently their leader, wasn't too concerned. He figured they still had overwhelming strength. They didn't run, just charge and kill them all. Clay formed up his 50 soldiers on the main road using the shield and spear formation I'd taught them against the sea monsters. The new recruits were nervous. Fighting humans was different from fighting creatures. Clay steadied them, reminding them they'd already beaten sea monsters and that these bandits were just easy war merit. Meanwhile, I'd positioned myself with Mia and the other 50 soldiers in the trees on the south side, ahead of where the bandits were about to charge. I gave my orders. Mia would take on the 3rd-rank leader, capture him alive if possible, kill him if not. Creel would lead his soldiers to flank the bandits from the side. As the bandits charged out of the forest toward Clay, I drew my bow and dropped a first-rank bandit with my first shot. Then I shouted the signal, and everyone burst from the trees. Mia led the charge while Creel's soldiers followed in formation. I fired at the second-rank masked man next. He dodged slightly, but I still hit his shoulder. The bandits instantly fell apart. Hearing the ambush from their flank, most of them froze mid-charge. Faster ones crashed into the ones who'd stopped. Total chaos. This was the difference between trained soldiers and a mob. Clay seized the moment and charged forward too. The third-rank bandit leader wanted to retreat, but the wounded masked man screamed at him to keep fighting, saying they'd both be in trouble if they failed their master's orders. Before he could finish his threat, I put an arrow through his throat. He stumbled and dropped dead. Mia reached the third-rank leader and hit him so hard he flew several meters back. He screamed for retreat, which made the chaos even worse. Bandits were trampling each other trying to run. I kept shooting, targeting the elite soldiers in leather armor to reduce pressure on my recruits. One by one, as the skilled fighters fell, regular bandits started surrendering. Once a few dropped their weapons, the rest followed like dominoes. I shouted that anyone who surrendered would be spared. Most gave up immediately. Only the ones with serious crimes kept fighting, knowing surrender meant execution anyway. The third-rank leader tried to flee into the forest, but Mia wouldn't let him go. I fired arrows at his face, throat, and legs to keep him distracted. Finally, Mia sliced off his sword hand. I decided I didn't need him alive after all. One more arrow, and he was dead. A massive ball of white light, far bigger than the second-rank ones, flew from his body into mine. I checked my panel, 126 energy essence points. A third-rank kill was worth 100 points. My innate talents could finally be upgraded. After the battle, I immediately upgraded my super precognition talent, spending 101 energy essence points. Unlike skill upgrades, there was no rush of memories, just a quiet change. The result, medium precognition. 2 danger warnings per day instead of 1, and the range doubled to 2 kilometers. The 3-day advance warnings stayed the same. I would have liked to upgrade further, but the system showed no values for the next level. Apparently, talent upgrades were locked behind my base knight rank, just like awakening new talents. So my priority now was raising my knight level. The battle was completely over. Most bandits had surrendered. They were just serfs playing at being outlaws. A few escaped north into the forest. I went to check on our casualties. 12 wounded, 5 might end up with permanent disabilities. But not a single death. The soldier reporting to me credited my formations and my archery support for the incredible result, though honestly luck played a big part too. I told the wounded soldiers their medical costs were covered and that even if they became disabled, the territory would give them jobs. They were almost in tears. Clay reported the final count. 67 bandits killed, 109 captured. I'd personally shot 4 professionals, 2 first rank, 1 second rank, and 1 third rank. The masked second-rank man was confirmed to be Odin's personal guard captain, the same one Creel had tracked leaving the fortress. I considered sending the bodies to Klein as evidence against Odin. Clay thought it wouldn't be enough to completely destroy Odin. The 8th Battalion and Northeast Legion leadership would try to keep it quiet to save face. But Klein could definitely use it to get Odin transferred away from Grey Fortress. That was good enough for me. I decided to hand the evidence over when Klein's people delivered my supplies at the Cane River, rather than making another trip back. Then I asked about loot from the dead professionals. Nothing, just basic iron armor. That didn't add up. A bandit group, led by a third-rank warrior, should have accumulated plenty of wealth. Clay interrogated the prisoners and came back quickly. Their hideout was a day's march deep in the mountains. Only one first-rank warrior, the dead leader's younger brother, was guarding it, along with about 10 elite bandits and 40 or 50 regular ones. And they had over 600 serfs. My eyes lit up. Time to pay that hideout a visit. I was about to order everyone to march on the bandit hideout when my newly upgraded precognition fired off a second warning. A third-rank knight with archer master skills was watching me from a mountaintop 2 kilometers to the north. Extremely dangerous. If I hadn't just upgraded my range from 1 to 2 kilometers, I'd never have detected him. A third-rank enchanted bow could kill from over 1,000 meters, well beyond my old detection range. I forced myself to stay calm and casually moved behind Mia to use her as a shield. Then I quietly told her and Clay about the threat. Clay's face went white for an instant before he controlled it. He immediately knew who it was, the Divine Eye Society, a professional assassination organization. Their members trained a special eye technique that gave them extreme long-range vision, making them perfect archers. They'd been mostly driven out of the Alpha Kingdom 50 years ago after assassinating royal family members and triggering a massive purge. Anyone caught hiring them faced severe punishment. Odin was playing a very dangerous game. Mia, who knew nothing about assassin guilds, offered the simplest solution. Get into the forest where dense trees would block any archer's line of sight, then close in for melee combat. That was how her White Wolf tribe had always dealt with strong archers. It wasn't perfect against a Divine Eye assassin, but it was our only option. Clay loudly announced we were heading to the bandit hideout, and everyone marched into the southern forest with the prisoners. Once we were a kilometer deep in the trees, I had Creel keep the main group moving while Clay, Mia, and I stayed behind to set an ambush. I gave Clay my magic crossbow. We'd both lose in a straight fight against a third-rank knight, so we needed every advantage. I kept my regular bow. The three of us spread out about 50 to 100 meters apart, close enough to converge quickly if the assassin followed us in. Then we waited. Shortly after we set up our ambush, a cloaked figure emerged from the northern forest and crossed to our side. The Divine Eye assassin paused at the tree line, wondering if I'd somehow detected him, then dismissed the thought. How could a mere first-rank knight spot someone hidden 2 kilometers away? He followed our trail into the forest. When he reached Clay's position, Clay fired the magic crossbow point blank. The assassin erupted with knight energy and blocked with his short sword, but the explosion still sent him flying several meters. Clay retreated to reload, but the assassin didn't chase. He was smart. He knew Clay wasn't the real threat. He was waiting for Mia to reveal her position so he could run the opposite direction. Clay understood this too. He gritted his teeth, grabbed both the crossbow and his sword, and charged back in. The assassin drew his enchanted bow. They fired simultaneously. The assassin dodged Clay's explosive bolt, but his own shot still grazed slightly off target, piercing clean through Clay's left shoulder. Clay went down, but it worked. While they'd been exchanging fire, Mia had closed in and swung for the assassin's waist. He barely dodged, and she locked him into close combat, refusing to let him gain distance for his bow. They fought for nearly half an hour. The assassin was accumulating wounds. Victory seemed certain, until his eyes suddenly turned blood red and started bleeding. When Mia met his gaze, she froze for an instant. He slashed at her throat, but the slavery law ring hidden under her collar blocked the strike. He followed with a vicious cut to her chest, splitting her armor and drawing blood. The pain snapped Mia out of it. She forced him back and dropped to one knee, hand pressed against her chest wound. She'd nearly died. When the assassin reached for his bow to finish her, I fired an arrow from my hiding spot, disrupting his aim. Clay, wounded but still fighting, picked up the crossbow with his good hand and fired too. Mia charged back in. Cornered by a sharpshooter, a crossbow, and a 4th-rank melee fighter, the assassin made his move. He rushed straight at me. Kill the controller, and the enslaved subhuman would lose direction. I drew my sword and waited. As he closed in, I shouted for Mia and Clay to attack simultaneously. Clay fired an explosive bolt at his left. Mia swung at his right. The assassin trusted his 3rd-rank enchanted armor to absorb both hits from behind and burst forward at full speed toward me. Exactly what I wanted. I activated extreme speed and charged right at him. We passed each other in a blur. He had just enough time to think one word, innate talent, before his head fell from his shoulders. This time I was ready. My blade took the assassin's head clean off, no half measures like with Riga. Another 100 energy essence points flowed into me, enough to upgrade extreme speed to medium level. But that could wait. Mia was hurt badly. She'd slumped against a tree, the long gash across her chest still bleeding. I rushed over with healing potions and was about to tear open her damaged armor to apply the medicine when she blushed and insisted on doing it herself. Right, I'd forgotten about that. I awkwardly handed her the blood-stopping potion and turned away. Clay came over with his shoulder wound already bandaged, then went to search the assassin's body. The haul was incredible. Everything on him was 3rd-rank enchanted gear, an enchanted bow with 11 arrows remaining, enchanted armor, an enchanted short sword, plus 3,000 gold in banknotes. But the real treasures were 2 documents, a third-rank archery manual called Wind-Chasing Arrow Technique that could enhance arrows with wind, energy for near-impossible-to-dodge speed, and an alchemy formula for something called Wolf Fire Potion, a training accelerator that could boost a first-rank knight's cultivation speed by 30%. Both were exactly what I needed. The archery manual would carry me all the way to 4th rank before I'd need a new one. And the potion formula required 2nd rank wolf blood or marrow as a main ingredient. And I had an entire stockpile of Gale Wolf materials back at Storm Castle. The only problem was brewing the potion required being a mage. I'd need to find a meditation method and hope I had magical talent. Otherwise, I'd have to ask Klein for help. Clay warned me about the enchanted weapons. As a 1st-rank knight, using 3rd-rank attack equipment would drain my energy dangerously fast. Maybe 3 shots with the enchanted bow before complete exhaustion. Useful as a trump card, but not for sustained combat. I swapped my 2nd-rank enchanted armor for the assassin's 3rd-rank set. The defense boost was immediate and reassuring. Then I gave Mia the 2nd-rank armor and the 3rd-rank short sword. She accepted without hesitation. I gave Clay an 8th-class territory merit for his bravery in this fight, on top of the 1st-rank enchanted armor I'd already ordered for him. He'd put his life on the line charging a 3rd-rank assassin with nothing but a crossbow and a sword. He deserved every bit of it. This battle taught me something important. A single 3rd-rank professional with special abilities had nearly beaten a 4th rank and 2 1st-rank fighters. This world was far more dangerous than raw numbers suggested. Until I got significantly stronger, I needed to stay close to Storm Castle and the protection of a certain giant panda. I had Clay destroy the Divine Eye assassin's body. He was confused. Turning it in would guarantee Odin's downfall and earn us a 7th-class merit. But I explained that the Divine Eye Society was far more dangerous than Odin. If we publicly revealed we'd killed one of their assassins, they'd just send more, stronger ones. Out here in this remote territory where the kingdom couldn't protect us, that would be a death sentence. Better to let them wonder what happened to their man. Assassins took their time on missions, so the society wouldn't get suspicious for a while. Clay understood and packed the body to dump in the Cane River later. We caught up with Creel's group. Then I took Mia and half the soldiers to raid the bandit hideout. It fell easily. Only 1 1st-rank warrior and a handful of fighters were left guarding it. We captured 31 bandits and freed 682 serfs. There were about 200 tons of grain and barely 500 coins. Most of the wealth had probably gone to Odin as tribute. But the real prize was the equipment. Enough weapons and armor to outfit 2 more companies, plus scrap iron for the blacksmiths. 2 days later, we met Klein's delivery convoy at the Cane River. I handed over the bandit leaders and Odin's guard captain's bodies as evidence. Klein's men recognized the guard captain immediately and rushed back to deliver the proof. Back at Storm Castle, I immediately spent 101 energy essence upgrading extreme speed to medium level. The result, triple speed boost instead of double. My speed now exceeded any 3rd-rank knight and reached about 75% of a 4th rank. Combined with my enchanted armor, and once I upgraded Flame Triple Slash, I could face a 3rd-rank knight head-on. I reorganized the military with the new manpower, 2 more infantry and spear companies, plus a proper archery company. In less than a month, Storm territory had grown from nothing to nearly half a battalion's worth of troops. Then old Charlie brought unexpected news. Among the serfs rescued from the bandits, one man claimed to be a merchant and wanted to meet me. I was skeptical. What merchant would be in this wilderness? When I pressed him, he admitted he wasn't from the Alpha Kingdom at all. His name was John Chris, a maritime trader from the Jarrett Kingdom far to the south of the continent. His ship had wrecked nearby, and while seeking help, he'd been captured by the bandits. A sea merchant, Clay, Charlie, and I all stared at him wide-eyed. A trader with knowledge of ocean commerce and connections to distant kingdoms. That could change everything for Storm territory. The 3 of us were stunned. A sea merchant was unheard of in this part of the world. The ocean belonged to the Naga. Even powerful kingdoms like Alpha could only maintain coastal navies with enormous national resources. A private merchant sailing the open sea seemed impossible. Clay immediately called the man a liar. Even the Tulip family, with all their mages, couldn't independently exploit ocean resources. But I pressed for details. I asked how far his kingdom was and how long he'd been at sea. John explained that the Jarrett Kingdom was tens of thousands of kilometers to the south, separated from our region by some kind of barrier. He'd been drifting for over 3 years. His expedition had started with over 100 people, including a 7th-rank knight, 2 6th-rank knights, a 6th-rank grand mage, and many 4th and 5th-rank professionals. They had magic cannons on their ocean-going vessel. A natural disaster damaged their ship. They drifted from deep ocean to coastal waters, losing most of their crew along the way. When they finally reached our shores with only 20 survivors, an 8th-rank sea dragon attacked. The 7th-rank knight and 6th-rank mage fought it while the ship broke apart. John, being just a 2nd-rank potion master with no combat skills, hid below deck. When the ship disintegrated, he clung to wreckage and washed ashore near the river mouth west of my territory. He'd walked the wrong direction, gotten captured by the bandits, and was waiting for a chance to escape when I raided the hideout. The key detail that made me sit up was his profession, a 2nd-rank potion master and 2nd-rank mage. He admitted he'd never bothered learning combat spells beyond the basics, because his potion-making skills gave him a comfortable life back home. That was perfect for me. I desperately needed someone who understood magic and alchemy. He could teach me mage basics, brew the wolf fire training potion from the formula I'd captured, and produce sellable potions for a steady income stream. I asked one final question, whether any of his powerful companions survived. He'd last seen the 7th-rank knight and 6th-rank mage fleeing the sea dragon toward the opposite shore using a flight scroll. Everyone else had probably drowned. 2 high-rank professionals were still out there somewhere, but they likely wouldn't care about a minor 2nd-rank potion maker. I decided on the spot. John was staying with me. After confirming John was useful and posed no real threat, I decided to keep him. Nobody would go through the trouble of planting a spy on someone as insignificant as me. I gave Charlie the job of distilling all the cheap wine from Grey Fortress using the method we'd perfected together. It was simple work, but I couldn't trust anyone unreliable with it. Panda's liquor supply was too important. Clay was sent to survey the southern bay now that the Naga had left, so I could plan how to develop those sea resources. I made both of them swear to keep John's existence and his overseas origins completely secret. Then I told John directly. He'd work for me exclusively, and if any powerful nobles found out about him, I'd have to silence him permanently. But I also offered fair terms, a 10-year contract, after which I'd help him get home or pay 50,000 gold in compensation. John was actually relieved by the contract arrangement. It was standard practice. Then I asked about mage meditation methods. John tried to talk me out of it. I was young and already a knight, so splitting my focus on magic would slow my main path. I told him I just wanted to have the option and offered to trade something for his method. He agreed and explained how magic worked. You needed 2 things: spiritual power above normal human levels to enter a meditative state, and elemental affinity that determined which type of magic you could learn and how fast you'd progress. Everyone had different affinities for different elements. His own meditation method was called lava meditation, a dual attribute fire and earth method usable up to 3rd rank, with fire being the primary element. He couldn't give me exact measurements without proper magical equipment, but he could set up a simple magic array to test 2 things: whether I could withstand spiritual pressure, which would prove I had the mental talent for magic, and whether I'd resonate with fire elements, which would mean I could use his specific method. If I passed the pressure test but didn't resonate with fire, I'd need to find a different elemental meditation method. If I couldn't handle the pressure at all, magic wasn't for me. I asked about learning multiple elements. He said it was technically possible, but nobody did it because life was too short to spread yourself thin. I disagreed silently. With my attribute point system, the rules were different for me. He needed an enchanted item and a fire magic core to set up the array. I had me a hand over the 2nd rank enchanted armor, keeping the weapons to myself. John still had a 1st rank fire core the bandits had mistaken for a rock. Time to find out if I had magical talent. John set up the magic array on the ground using materials I didn't recognize, placed the 2nd rank enchanted armor inside, chanted some spells, and added his fire magic core. The whole array glowed fiery red and radiated heat. I had Mia test it first. She walked in, stayed 10 minutes, and came out fine, confirming the spiritual pressure was below 1st rank level and safe for me. I also made sure destroying the array wouldn't damage the enchanted armor inside. It wouldn't. When I stepped in, An invisible force immediately started hammering my brain. Dizzy, nauseous, deeply uncomfortable. I clenched my teeth and endured it, sweat pouring down my face. I had no sense of time in there. After 10 minutes, John tried to shut it down. Staying too long wasn't beneficial, but Mia thought he was up to something and blocked him. He quickly explained the time was up, and Mia pulled me out. Once I caught my breath, I asked the big question. John smiled and confirmed I had the spiritual talent for magic. Then he asked if I'd sensed any fire element fluctuations inside, red energy dots with a burning sensation. I had. John was surprised. He'd only been testing casually, not expecting me to share his fire affinity. But I did, which meant his lava meditation method would work for me. I didn't care about measuring exactly how much talent I had. With my system panel, I just needed to get my foot in the door. Attribute points would handle the rest. We made our trade. I gave John everything I had. The 4th rank flame breathing method, 3rd rank silver wolf warrior method, flame triple slash, holy cross slash, wind chasing arrow. Technique, earth sync spell, and the wolf fire potion formula. If he couldn't get home after 10 years, these would let him establish a family in the Alpha Kingdom. In return, John gave me his 3rd rank lava meditation method, 3 0-ring spells, illumination, minor healing, and refreshment, 1 1st ring spell called small fireball, plus all his potion knowledge. Formulas for 1st rank healing potions, recovery potions, purification potions, the 1st rank warrior advancement potion called fading potion, a 1st rank meditation potion called water fairy potion, and a 2nd rank warrior potion formula. The fading potion formula nearly made me jump out of my skin. In the Alpha Kingdom, only the great noble houses possessed this recipe. It was the potion warriors needed to break through to the professional level. Controlling its production meant having an unlimited supply of warrior professionals. Yet in John's homeland, warrior potions were considered cheap goods for lower classes. Magic and knighthood were what mattered there. John took the wolf fire potion formula to study, excited about a knight class potion he'd never encountered before. And I sat there staring at my pile of magical knowledge, barely able to contain my excitement. Everything I needed, magic training, potion brewing, economic development, had just fallen into my lap. Looking at the fading potion formula, I found that all the secondary ingredients were common and cheap, under 5 gold coins total. But the main ingredient, fading fruit, was something I'd never heard of in the Alpha Kingdom. Since the great nobles monopolized the formula, they'd probably controlled the fruit supply too. That would have to wait until I found the actual trees. The water fairy meditation potion needed a magical sea plant called water fairy grass. John mentioned seeing traces of it near the Cane River estuary when he washed ashore, but he'd been too busy surviving to investigate. Worth checking out later. The hardest part of John's knowledge transfer wasn't the formulas. It was all the foundational studies required to become a proper potion master. Material science, biology, mathematics, geometric arrays, physical theory. When John listed everything I needed to learn, I wanted to scream. I'd transmigrated to another world, became a nobleman with a cheat system, and I still couldn't escape studying textbooks? Was this transmigration or a punishment? But if I wanted my system to register potion making as a skill, I had to at least reach beginner level through actual study. I spent the rest of the day trying to enter a meditation state using the lava meditation method. Nothing happened. John said it took him 3 months to first enter meditation, so I wasn't worried. I just needed to get the door open. Attribute points would handle the rest. The next day, I made my rounds inspecting the troops and farmland. Everything was running smoothly. Then I checked on Charlie's distilling operation. Going well, but the poor old man was exhausted. I told him to pick some trustworthy serfs to train as household servants who could share his workload. That's when Charlie dropped a bombshell. We were running out of salt. He'd only had enough for 1,000 people for 3 months, and now our population had nearly doubled. He asked why I hadn't bought any at Grey Fortress. I stared at him. By salt, with the ocean right outside our walls. I asked where the kingdom's salt came from. Salt mines, he said. The entire Frostmoon province had no salt mines, so they imported from a neighboring province at high prices. 3 copper per 100 grams for coarse salt, 10 copper for fine white salt. And the kingdom didn't regulate salt prices. My heart nearly exploded with excitement. These people didn't know you could make salt from seawater. The mages of this world had somehow never figured that out. An entire province without salt, paying premium import prices, and I was sitting on an unlimited ocean. I grabbed Charlie, a big iron pot, some cloth, and a wooden basin, and dragged him to the beach. Following basic chemistry I remembered from middle school, I filled the pot with seawater and started boiling. Charlie had no idea what I was doing. After boiling most of the water away, I filtered the concentrated liquid through cloth several times to remove impurities, then continued heating. When reddish-white crystals began forming on the edges of the pot, I scraped some off and tasted it. "Charlie, try this." He tasted it, and his eyes went wide. "Young master, this is salt. There's salt in seawater." When Charlie tasted the reddish-white crystals from the pot, he said they were like coarse salt. But I shook my head. This stuff was still toxic for long-term consumption and wouldn't sell well either. We needed to keep refining it. We took everything back to the distillery kitchen and tried dissolving, filtering, and reboiling the crude salt multiple times. But no matter what I did, the result was still bitter and discolored. Something was wrong, and my middle school science knowledge had reached its limits. I called in John the potion master. The moment he walked in, he recognized what I was doing. "You're purifying sea salt." Charlie was shocked that this foreigner knew about salt and seawater. But I was thrilled. John clearly knew the proper method. He examined my work and said I was actually close to succeeding. My filtering was just too crude to remove the toxic elements. I needed to add limestone to the process, and I had to understand the different dissolving and boiling points of pure salt versus the poisonous compounds. He started explaining the chemistry, and I felt like I was back in school, regretting every class I'd slept through. After 3 days of experimenting together, we successfully produced fine white salt. I even managed to simplify the process for mass production. With sea salt figured out, I needed loyal people I could trust with these secrets. I gave Clay 3,000 gold from the assassin's loot and sent him to Grey Fortress to buy contract scrolls, 3 second-rank ones, 11 first-rank, and 100 ordinary ones. While Clay was away, I kept practicing. The lava meditation method still wouldn't click, but the wind-chasing arrow technique reached beginner level and appeared on my panel. With my maxed-out basic archery as a foundation, I could train this new technique to first-rank peak on my own without wasting attribute points. Then Roger rushed back with urgent news. Not Gale Wolves this time. 11 ogres were heading towards Storm Castle. Based on their size, 1 was 4th rank, 2 3rd rank, 3 2nd rank, and 5 1st rank. Ogres were one of the stronger species in the wilderness, usually raiding human territories for slaves to eat before winter. But this was spring. Mia guessed they'd probably wandered into Gale Wolf territory and been chased out. Back when Panda controlled the eastern mountains, ogres used to hunt there regularly. Whatever the reason, I couldn't let them reach my remaining farmland. I immediately called up the troops to meet them outside the walls. Ogres were nasty creatures. Adults started at first-rank strength, and their raw power exceeded even second-rank human professionals. They ate everything, including each other when desperate. But they especially loved eating intelligent beings' brains, which supposedly made them smarter. I deployed nearly everything Storm Castle had. Roger's half-knight squad, Parker's infantry company, Jenkins's spear company, both archer squads, Mia, and even John, who volunteered when he heard about the ogres. Apparently, ogre body parts were valuable potion ingredients that were extinct in the southern continent. He wanted me to capture one alive for research. I just laughed at that. When we reached a spot about 8 kilometers northwest of the castle, my precognition confirmed the 11 ogres 2 kilometers ahead. Interestingly, the warning said, dangerous, rather than extremely dangerous. My upgraded speed talent had apparently changed my threat assessment. The terrain was perfect for an ambush, a low valley between 2 forested ridges. I sent Roger's cavalry ahead to lure the ogres in, hid the infantry and archers on both sides, and used purification potions to mask our scent. Half an hour later, Roger came galloping back with 11 howling ogres behind him. The moment they entered the valley, I gave the signal. The archers opened fire from the high ground. 2 volleys, and every ogre except the 4th-rank leader was wounded. 2 first-rank ones took arrows to the head and dropped dead. I personally shot down a 1st-rank and 2nd-rank, then switched to my 3rd-rank enchanted bow and aimed at the big one. The ogres tried to retreat, which split their formation perfectly. Mia charged the 4th-rank leader. The infantry and spear companies boxed in the middle group, while archers kept firing. Roger's cavalry surrounded the stragglers at the rear. The middle ogres were terrifying up close. They smashed through wooden shields with single swings of their bone clubs, sending soldiers flying. But the spearmen pushed them back, and John's fireballs kept them pinned. I drew the third-rank enchanted bow fully and fired at the fourth-rank ogre. It tried to dodge, which was exactly what Mia was waiting for. She activated the third-rank enchanted short sword and sliced clean through its bone club and its head in one strike. Then I shouted for John to hit a third-rank ogre with a fireball. The flash blinded it just long enough for me to put a third-rank enchanted arrow through its skull. I had to chug 2 recovery potions immediately. Using third-rank equipment at first rank was brutally draining. Mia killed the last third-rank ogre before I could shoot it, 100 energy essence points I'd never get. I switched to regular arrows and took down 1 second-rank ogre, but Roger got the other one. Another 10 points wasted. All 11 ogres were eliminated. We'd taken some casualties among the infantry, but nothing catastrophic. Between the energy I'd collected from the kills I'd personally made and the valuable ogre materials for John's potions, this was another productive day for Storm Territory. After the battle, Parker reported the casualties: 7 infantry and 8 spearmen wounded, 3 likely to die, and 2 who'd probably lose the use of their arms. 3 dead. I felt the weight of it, but I couldn't afford to dwell on grief. This world was brutal, and more people would die for me in the future. What I could do was honor my promises and give the living something worth fighting for. I called John over to check the wounded. His minor healing spell could only handle light external injuries, and these 3 men had been hit in the chest by ogre bone clubs, shattered ribs, and crushed organs. John looked at them and shook his head. Only a 6th ring greater healing spell could save them. I told him to focus on the other wounded, especially the 2 facing permanent disability. If he could fully restore even one of them, I'd credit him with a 9th-class merit. He was surprised. A 9th-class merit for saving a common soldier seemed excessive, but he bowed and got to work. Then I asked Parker for the dying men's names. Lant and Ratchy were elite soldiers with families back at Grey Fortress. Kimby was a serf soldier with no family at all. I knelt beside them and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. I told Lant and Ratchy their families would receive the full pension, every last coin, and once Storm Castle was safe enough, I'd bring their families here. Their children would have priority to join the military. Then I turned to Kimby. He had no one, but he'd fought and died for Storm Castle, for me. So I declared him no longer a serf. He was a free commoner of Storm Castle. I named this valley after him, Kimby Valley. It would become the burial ground for all soldiers who fell defending the territory. And I announced that Storm Castle would build a Hall of Heroes. Every soldier who died for the territory would have their name inscribed there, honored and remembered for generations. Lant, Ratchy, Kimby, I hope we fight side by side again in another life. Rest well. All 3 smiled at the same moment, then passed away peacefully. Every soldier around me dropped to one knee, tears streaming down their faces. We swear loyalty unto death. The cry echoed across the valley. Something had changed. Before, these men followed me for the pay and benefits. Now there was something deeper, a sense of belonging, of being valued as more than expendable tools. I declared April 18th as Heroes' Day, to be observed every year in remembrance of those who gave their lives for the territory. John watched all of this with wide eyes. He'd never seen a noble lord act this way. It went far beyond political calculation. Spending this much energy and emotion on common soldiers violated every principle of aristocratic self-interest. He couldn't decide whether following such an unusual leader was a blessing or a curse. We buried the 3 soldiers in Kimby Valley with full honors. Afterward, I finally checked my panel. The battle had earned me 121 energy essence points, bringing my total to 146. Not bad at all. I was pleased with the 121 energy essence points from the ogre battle, though frustrated I couldn't use them yet. I needed to reach 2nd rank knight first. The fight had also given my wind-chasing arrow technique 1 skill point through combat experience, confirming that real battles trained weapon skills faster than practice. I tallied up the spoils. Ogre skin was excellent material for enchanted armor, worth over 1,000 gold for all 11. Their hearts, stomachs, and especially their brains were valuable potion ingredients. John knew how to preserve them properly, so I kept everything for future use or trade. I announced the battle merits publicly. Everyone earned a share of a collective 8th class merit worth 500 gold. Mia got 100, Roger 50, John 20, and even the lowest-ranking soldiers received at least 50 silver coins. Several serf archers earned enough individual merit to become free commoners on the spot. After sending Roger back to patrol the northwestern border, I decided to take a detour north on the way home. The nights had been too busy for northern patrols lately. That's when John suddenly stopped at a patch of thin, straight saplings and got excited. "Baron, these are arrow trees." I had no idea what he was talking about. These twigs ranged from thumb-thick to child's arm thick. John explained they were second-rank magical materials used to make first- and second-rank magic arrows. In his homeland, they cost 30 to 50 silver each, but I knew that at Grey Fortress, the same material sold for 1 to 3 gold coins apiece. There were over 1,000 of them right here, about 2,000 gold coins growing out of the ground. Even better, arrow trees were renewable. As long as you didn't damage the roots, they'd regrow. The growth cycle was just 1 year. That meant roughly 2,000 gold in annual income from this single growth. Another windfall falling right into my lap. I had Parker's men carefully harvest everything that was mature. 862 trees total. John sorted them. 523 first rank and 339 second rank. The first rank ones wouldn't grow bigger due to poor soil nutrients, and upgrading the grove would require expensive magic crystals I couldn't afford. I decided to leave it as is. First rank trees were still profitable. I stationed 2 squads to guard the grove permanently. It was only 2 kilometers from Stormcastle, close enough for quick reinforcements if anything happened. I also told John that once Clay returned, I'd have him escort John on a survey of the entire territory. As a trained mage, he could identify valuable resources that the rest of us would walk right past. Today had proven that perfectly. Back at Stormcastle, I had Charlie distribute the battle rewards and picked a spot between the outer city and inner keep to build the Hall of Heroes, putting Creel in charge of construction. When Clay returned with the contract scrolls, I immediately got to work. Charlie and I selected 50 trustworthy serfs and signed them as household servants using ordinary contract scrolls. They'd handle the salt refinery and distillery operations. Loyalty mattered more than skill for this work. With enough hands available, I ordered Charlie to set up proper workshops for salt production and liquor distilling. Then I signed a second-rank contract with John using one of the expensive scrolls. These contracts were made by the Dawn Goddess Church and carried divine enforcement. Anyone who broke the terms would face severe divine punishment. With that barrier of mistrust finally removed, I could freely put John to work. Clay had also brought back materials for brewing the wolf fire potion. The secondary ingredients were dirt cheap. The expensive main ingredient, wolf bone marrow, we had plenty of from the Gale Wolf stockpile. I handed everything to John and let him get started. Then came the part one dreaded. I sat down with the Magic Fundamentals textbooks that Klein had gifted me through Clay. 3 painful days later, I finished reading them. What I learned changed my understanding completely. Magic wasn't just supernatural power, it was more like advanced science. Every spell required complex calculations to construct. Meditation meant building magical models inside your own mental space using structured spiritual energy. No wonder John couldn't explain the process clearly when I'd asked before. Without a proper educational foundation, he'd spent his whole career figuring things out by trial and error. But I had 9 years of mandatory education from Earth. I could analyze and systematize the information in ways he never could. Armed with these insights, I tried the lava meditation method again. This time, I opened my mental world and accepted the stable form spiritual energies I'd identified from my studies. I slipped into a trance-like state. When intense hunger jolted me awake, Mia told me I'd been meditating for over a day straight. I'd done it. Entering a meditation state meant I'd reached Magic Apprentice level. Magic was officially on my panel now. I checked eagerly. Lava meditation method. Beginner Magic Apprentice. 2 out of 100. It had even gained 2 skill points from that single session. John had needed 3 months to first enter meditation. I'd done it in about a week of attempts. My magical talent was apparently quite decent, at least much better than his. I grinned at the panel. Knight, Archer, and now Mage. The foundation was set. With attribute points to accelerate everything, The only limit was time. After confirming my magic had reached apprentice level, with 2 skill points from that single day-long meditation session, my stomach reminded me I hadn't eaten in over a day. Mia had been collecting the meals servants brought while I was in my trance, knowing better than to interrupt. I devoured everything in minutes. Then Mia told me Clay had come looking for me with something urgent. He'd waited 2 hours and gone back to the southern bay. I rode out to find him. When I reached the coast, the soldiers told me Clay had taken a small boat to the largest island outside the bay. He'd been methodically exploring all 5 islands and had found exposed iron ore on the last one. He'd even gone back to fetch John for a proper assessment. Iron ore. I couldn't get to that island fast enough. We had 5 small boats now. I'd ordered them built after Panda warned me that the 7th-rank Wolf King couldn't fly, making the islands a safe refuge. I'd specifically requested serfs who knew fishing and boat building when I bought from Klein. Their first boats were crude. These fishermen only knew river and lake craft. But with John's help and some ideas I remembered from videos back on Earth, we'd cobbled together vessels that could handle the calm bay waters. The island was bigger than I expected, with dense forest in the center. I followed Clay's tracks to the southern shore where he and John were waiting. Clay was grinning. John delivered the real news. The entire southern half of the island was one continuous iron deposit. Based on the ore quality, it was at least a medium-sized mine. And he suspected an even larger deposit lay beneath the seabed. This island was probably just the tip of something much bigger. A medium-sized iron mine at minimum, possibly large or even massive. I'd been hoping for a small deposit. This was beyond anything I'd imagined. John added that early mining would be easy since so much ore was exposed on the surface. Deeper extraction would eventually hit seawater problems that current Alpha Kingdom technology couldn't solve, but that was a future worry. The moment I got back to Storm Castle, I ordered Charlie to organize 300-strong serfs for mining operations on the island. I assigned Russell's new spear company to guard the mine in rotating shifts of 50. And I told every boat builder and carpenter to work overtime producing 20 more boats immediately. Iron meant weapons, armor, tools, and trade goods. Storm Territory's future had just gotten a lot brighter. With the iron mine discovered, I needed to solve the smelting problem immediately. Selling raw ore wasn't an option. The transportation costs from this remote location would eat all the profit. The real money was in finished products, weapons, and armor. In this world, arms dealing and slave trading were the most profitable businesses, with endless demand. I headed to the castle smithy. What I found was depressing. A cluster of shabby straw huts that looked no better than the serf quarters. This was supposed to be one of the castle's most important facilities. In a frontier territory with constant fighting, everything from farming tools to weapons needed constant repair and replacement. Why had previous barons let it get this bad? Inside, I found a young blacksmith named Derek hammering away, so focused he didn't notice us until Jenkins called out to him. He dropped everything and rushed over, practically glowing with gratitude. I'd freed him from slavery, and now as a commoner blacksmith, he had a real future, a wife, children, a family trade to pass down. I asked what he could make. He and another smith named Zach could forge basic swords and spearheads, which put them above average. Most regular blacksmiths could only make farm tools or do simple repairs. Armor smiths were considered masters, far too valuable to ever end up in a slave market. I was lucky to have even weapon-capable smiths. Then I looked at their equipment and nearly lost it. They were using primitive open-pit furnaces with no bellows or any kind of forced air system. I couldn't imagine how they managed to get iron hot enough to work with. And every other smith in the castle had the same setup. Apparently this was standard, even at Grey Fortress. This wouldn't do it all. Not with a whole iron mine to process. I sent Jenkins to gather the stonemasons, bricklayers, and one carpenter. While waiting, I grabbed some animal hide and charcoal and started sketching designs for a proper forge furnace based on models I'd seen in videos back on Earth. I also worked out the concept for a bellows system, though I couldn't draw it properly. I'd have to explain it verbally to the carpenter and hope he could figure it out. I wished I could build a water wheel for semi-automated power, but Storm Castle had no flowing water nearby, just deep wells. That project would have to wait until we expanded the castle infrastructure. Derek watched me sketch with excited eyes. He'd already seen what my designs could do when I'd given them the curved plow blueprints. Whatever I was drawing now, he knew it would be something special. I spent the rest of that evening explaining my forged designs to all the craftsmen. The blacksmiths understood the concepts immediately and were thrilled. I showed the stonemasons and bricklayers the furnace blueprints, then described the bellows concept to the carpenter verbally since I couldn't draw it properly. I gave them 7 days to complete everything and told them to get manpower from Jenkins if needed. That night, I realized how desperately the territory needed educated people. I still had 50 ordinary contract scrolls and 11 first-rank ones unused. I needed to find real talent, and failing that, start training my own. A literacy class was becoming urgent. You can't develop people who can't read. Over the next several days, I split my time between studying how to construct zero-ring spells and practicing the wind-chasing arrow technique. The territory mostly ran itself for now. Charlie and 50 contract servants handled salt and liquor production. Creel's Hall of Heroes was taking shape nicely. Russell was preparing the Iron Mine Island with housing and supply transport, and the boat builders were working overtime. 7 days later, Jenkins reported the smithy renovation was complete. Even better, the stonemasons and bricklayers were making progress on brickmaking, though I didn't have time to check that yet. The reason was an unexpected discovery during meditation. While studying the structural differences between fire-type illumination and earth-type earth-sync spells, I suddenly sensed earth element fluctuations in my spiritual sea. I might have earth affinity too. I called John in to ask about dual element affinity. He explained that generally, fewer affinities meant higher talent in each one. He himself had 3, fire, wind, and earth, but only fire was worth developing. Most mages focused on their strongest element exclusively since life was too short to spread thin. I asked if he'd noticed I'd already entered meditation. He was shocked. Reaching apprentice level this quickly, especially in an environment with weaker magical energy than the southern continent, was genuinely impressive. After John left, I made my decision. I'd train everything. The conventional wisdom about focus didn't apply to someone with an attribute point system. Points could handle breakthroughs. Daily practice would build the foundations, and training potions would accelerate progress. More abilities meant more options in combat, which meant more resources, which meant faster growth. It was a positive cycle. I spent the next 5 days focusing on earth element meditation and constructing the earth sync spell model in my spiritual sea. On the 5th day, I succeeded. My first zero-ring spell was complete. I checked my panel, earth sync, zero-ring spell beginner, max. 37 attribute points saved up. Energy essence at 146, still waiting for my knight rank to catch up before I could awaken a 3rd talent. But now I was a knight, an archer, and a mage who could literally pull the ground out from under someone's feet. I was a bit confused that the panel showed earth sync at beginner, max. Zero-ring spells apparently couldn't level up further, but they still worked. I tested it outside the castle walls. 5 meters away, I could create a 3-meter-wide hole about half a meter deep. At 15 meters, the hole shrank to 2 meters wide and 30 centimeters deep. I could cast it 5 or 6 times before my magical energy ran out completely. Casting speed was about 4 to 5 seconds per spell, way too slow. I wanted instant casting eventually. The biggest limitation was that I had no mana recovery potions, and John didn't have the formula either. Without them, magic combat was severely restricted. Next, I visited the brickmaking experiments. The craftsmen had built 5 or 6 test kills based on my ideas combined with their charcoal kiln experience. The head stonemason, Toby, showed me their best results, red bricks. I picked one up and tried to snap it. Not hard enough. Good for building houses, but nowhere near strong enough for fortress walls or harbor construction. I told Toby to keep experimenting with water cooling methods instead of just air cooling. Now that we had the iron mine, I could eventually produce steel reinforcement bars. If John and I could figure out cement, then steel-reinforced cement walls with proper water-cooled bricks might be even stronger than stone and much faster to build. I promoted Toby to commoner status as a reward for the red brick breakthrough, then ordered him to build proper kills for mass production and start replacing all the wooden and mud buildings inside the castle with brick ones. The bricklayer Mario, who'd already earned his freedom by figuring out basic Morite, would oversee the full renovation. 3 days later, as I was about to inspect the Iron Mine Island, John came to me with exciting news. He'd successfully brewed the wolf fire potion. Out of 100 sets of materials, he'd wasted about 20 learning the process, then achieved a 30 to 40% success rate on the rest. Total yield, 28 doses of Wolf Fire Potion, each one capable of boosting a first-rank knight's training speed by 30%. 28 doses. That was enough to significantly accelerate my own advancement and still have plenty left over. John handed me all 28 doses of Wolf Fire Potion, then warned me about the side effects. Normal training potions boosted cultivation by 20% and could be used about 10 times. Wolf Fire Potion boosted 30%, but could only be used 5 times before it started interfering with breakthroughs to the next rank. That made it worse than regular potions for most people. But not for me. My attribute points could handle any breakthrough. They'd even replaced the life source liquid. Drug side effects were irrelevant when you had a cheat system. This, inferior, potion was actually perfect for me. I made a mental note to look for more of these kinds of potions. They'd probably be cheaper than the standard ones. I took my first dose immediately. My heart burned like fire, and my combat energy started circulating on its own at incredible speed. I trained the flame breathing method nonstop for an entire day before the effects wore off. Normally, with my poor talent, I could only train for 1 hour per day. The potion's real value wasn't just the speed boost. It extended training time dramatically. After checking my panel, the breathing method had jumped from 10 to 41, a gain of 31 points in 1 day. But 28 doses wouldn't be enough to reach second rank at 1,000 points total. I need to buy more materials from Grey Fortress later. I trained with potions for 3 more days straight, pushing my total to 134. I planned to reach second rank in about 2 months, then switch focus to magic. The panel system was making me greedy. I wanted to learn everything, which was somehow more exhausting than my old job back on Earth. Just as I was planning to rest, John showed up asking to visit the Cane River estuary. He wanted to check for water fairy grass for meditation potions, but his real reason was to look for his magic staff that he dropped in the sea when fleeing the sea dragon. A magic staff, something that boosted casting speed and spell power. Extremely rare and expensive in the Alpha Kingdom. That was worth a personal trip. I gathered half of Parker's infantry company, loaded 2 small boats, and we headed west. When we reached the river mouth half a day later, everyone froze. The sea was blood red. Enormous creatures were bursting out of the water, and the surface was littered with torn flesh and corpses. Something massive and terrifying was fighting out there in the coastal waters. We dove into the trees to hide and watched the carnage unfold. We hid in the trees and pulled out our telescopes to watch. John had actually crafted these single-lens scopes using magic. Apparently, that was a basic skill for any sea merchant worth their salt. They worked better than anything I could have designed. What I saw was insane. Massive groups of unicorn whales and sawtooth sharks were tearing each other apart in a full-scale ocean war. Most were second and third rank magical beasts, with some fourth rank mixed in. John said something valuable must have appeared on the seafloor to trigger a fight like this. He'd seen it before. Once it was a 6th rank water spirit coral worth a fortune. Then 3 7th rank creatures, 2 sharks and a whale, burst from the surface. The whale smashed both sharks away with a single charge. I shoved my head down lower and swallowed whatever brilliant treasure hunting idea I'd been about to suggest. But I wasn't watching for the treasure. I was eyeing the hundreds of dead magical beast bodies floating on the surface. Meat, magic cores, hides, all worth serious money. I sent word back to the castle. Bring every cart, horse, and ox we had. We waited a full day and night. The sea finally went quiet. Nobody could tell who won or whether the victors were still lurking below. John and I debated sending someone to check, looked at each other awkwardly. Our only fighters were me at 1st rank, him at 2nd rank, and Mia at 4th, and agreed to just wait longer. By the next morning, schools of regular fish had returned to feed on the corpses, and seabirds were circling. That was the all-clear signal. John jumped into a boat and headed out before I could even agree. Clay had arrived overnight with Creel's 2nd Infantry Company and all the transport vehicles. I ordered the soldiers to start hauling bodies ashore, prioritizing the ones from professional-level beasts. Then John started shouting and waving frantically from the water, pointing at something. I grabbed Mia and rowed out to him. "Sir, look. This young unicorn whale is still alive." He was pointing at a small whale, only about 2 meters long, floating weakly among the carnage. When John excitedly told me a young unicorn whale was still alive, I nearly kicked him overboard. A living whale, and he wants me to come closer? But it was just a small one, barely 2 meters long, badly wounded with huge bite marks. John explained that adult unicorn whales reached 5th rank and grew over 15 meters, basically living warships and the best ocean mounts money couldn't buy. I wasn't interested in ocean development right now, but I didn't want to crush John's dreams of getting home someday. So I generously gave him the whale and told him to try bonding with it. John explained that mages could form spirit contracts by exchanging mental imprints in each other's spiritual seas. No contract magic required, but the other party had to agree. He spent 2 hours trying, resting, and trying again, but the little whale refused to cooperate. It won't even talk to me, John said, frustrated. I suggested we just butcher it. John looked horrified and begged me to try instead, saying my magical talent was better than his. I thought that was ridiculous. I was just an apprentice, but agreed to treat it as a learning exercise. Following John's instructions, I entered the whale's spiritual sea after a few attempts. Immediately, a child's voice screamed at me. "Go away. I'm waiting for my parents. They'll come back and kill you." Just a scared little kid. I tried the nice approach, offered to help find its parents, mentioned tasty fish and shrimp. It called me a liar. That ticked me off. Fine. I dropped the friendly act. "Listen here, since you won't cooperate, I'll skin you for a seat cushion, pop out your eyeballs for marbles, stew your heart for soup, and barbecue the rest. Then I'll go back to land where your parents will never find me. You. The little whale was terrified. "Open your spiritual sea right now and let me leave my imprint, or I'm boiling you alive." It caved completely. Didn't even negotiate conditions. Just opened up and let me stamp my mark. And somehow we ended up with a completely one-sided spirit contract in my favor. I felt a little guilty afterward, like some creepy uncle who'd just bullied a child into submission. But hey, it worked. After successfully bullying the little whale into a spirit contract, I softened up and asked if it had a name. It didn't. It had literally just been born during the battle and was bitten by a shark before it could even swim to deep water. It thought it was dying. I comforted it, promised my medicines could save it, and named it Little Kuan. The moment it heard it wouldn't die, it happily thanked me, completely forgetting I'd just threatened to skin it alive. Through the contract, I now had a permanent mental link with Little Kuan and could communicate with it at short range. More importantly, I could use my spiritual imprint to attack its mind at any time, even kill it. So betrayal wasn't a concern. And once it grew to adulthood at 5th rank and over 15 meters long, it could guard Storm Bay. When I told John I'd already succeeded, he was speechless. He asked worriedly if I'd promised the whale anything disadvantageous. I laughed and assured him I hadn't. The truth was even funnier. I'd gotten a completely one-sided deal by threatening a baby, but I kept that to myself. John treated Little Kuan's wounds while I checked on Clay's salvage operation. The haul was impressive. About 50 tons of whale and shark meat. Over 21st and 2nd rank beast hides large enough to make 100+ sets of armor, plus shark teeth and whale horns as magical materials. Unfortunately, every single corpse had its head bitten open. Whoever won the battle had taken every last magic core, even the 1st rank ones. Frustrating, but expected. The next day, Little Kuan woke up and nearly fainted again, seeing all the armed humans staring at it. I calmed it down and left Clay with 20 soldiers to nurse it back to health, feeding it healing and recovery potions every 4 hours. Then John and I headed west to search for his magic staff and the water fairy plants. After 3 days of searching 3 kilometers of coastline, the staff was gone, probably swept away for good. But we found 13 water fairy plants, which John carefully dug up with their roots and preserved in special solution. He'd transplant them in Storm Bay, where they'd regrow every 6 months. Just as we were about to cross the river and head home, a soldier spotted a flock of unusual ducks upstream with brilliant fire-red tail feathers. John and I looked at each other in disbelief. Fire-tailed ducks, another valuable find. This trip just kept giving. We had to catch them. I'd heard they tasted amazing. Fire-tailed ducks were ordinary-level magical beasts with gorgeous flame-red tail feathers. In the inland markets, quality feathers sold for 5 silver coins each as decorations for noble ladies' gowns, and the meat was incredibly nutritious, especially valuable for children who hadn't started training yet. The problem was catching them alive. They could fly and dive underwater. I'd get maybe 2 arrow shots before they all disappeared beneath the surface. John didn't understand why I was interested in boring ducks until I explained their value. Then his eyes lit up. He pulled out a homemade sleeping potion he'd been developing. Not strong enough for first-rank beasts yet, but perfect for ordinary creatures like these ducks. I tied the potion to an arrow and shot it into the densest part of the flock. John detonated it remotely with his spiritual power. The ducks all dove underwater in panic, but within minutes they started floating back up, unconscious. We scooped up 16 of them. We collected little Kuin from Clay's camp and traveled back along the coast. The little whale made it safely to Storm Bay, where I assigned soldiers to feed and watch over it. Back at Storm Castle, the entire city was covered in drying whale and shark meat. Charlie had used up all our salt and still didn't have enough, but a clever serf had suggested smoking and wind-drying the excess. I rewarded that serf with 20 pounds of shark meat to encourage more independent thinking. I handed the fire-tailed ducks to Charlie for breeding, then sent Clay back to Gray Fortress with the harvested arrow trees to sell. I needed him to buy 100 sets of wolf fire potion ingredients, 100 sets of water fairy potion materials, 1,000 sets of basic healing, recovery, and purification potion ingredients, plus more craftsman slaves, about 2,500 gold total. I went back to training with the wolf fire potion, planning 7 straight days of cultivation. But on day 5, a messenger arrived with urgent news. Clay's group had been ambushed by pig-headed beastmen on the way back. All the craftsman slaves he'd bought were captured. Clay and his half-knight squad managed to escape, then circled back to track the beastmen. He'd sent someone racing back to Storm Castle for reinforcements. When I heard Clay had been robbed by pig-headed beastmen, I'd just finished a training session. I rushed to the meeting hall where all available officers were already waiting. The messenger, Apprentice Knight Eric, reported that 2 days ago, about 300 pig-headed beastmen had intercepted Clay's group 20 kilometers west of the Cane River. They were outnumbered, so they had to abandon the 20-plus craftsman slaves they'd just purchased. The beastmen didn't chase Clay's cavalry, but took the slaves south into the Gray Mountains instead of heading north back to the wilderness. Clay suspected the pigheads were raiding a bandit hideout, so he followed them while sending Eric back for orders. I figured their leader was probably 3rd rank at most, based on the 2nd-rank scout leader they'd spotted. That was manageable. I quickly assigned defensive duties. The 2nd Spear Company's remaining troops and the new archer squads would stay to guard Storm Castle under Vice Captain Diera. Will and Lori would assist with their leg injuries, keeping them on wall duty. Before leaving, I checked my panel. 55 attribute points available. I spent 1 to push wind-chasing arrow technique to 1st rank for faster, harder-hitting shots. I left Flame triple slash alone. I preferred ranged combat and had Mia for close quarters. I marched out with 2 infantry companies, 1 spear company, and 2 veteran archer squads. By evening we'd reached the ambush site. Clay had left horses and 2 knights hidden nearby, since mounted combat was useless in the mountains. We camped for the night and followed Clay's trail markers into the mountains at dawn. By noon, Clay himself came running back to meet us. Perfect timing, sir. The pigheads are heading back this way, about 3 hours out. They raided a bandit camp yesterday, grabbed some grain, and over 300 serfs. I asked about their strength. Their chief was 3rd rank, with 1 2nd rank, 2 1st rank, and the rest were ordinary fighters. They'd also captured 2 1st-rank human bandits alive. That was well within our ability to handle. 3 hours was plenty of time. Set up traps and prepare the ambush. This is free war merit walking right toward us. After I gave the orders, everyone moved fast. Clay went ahead to track the pigheads. Creel's company stayed behind to dig pit traps, and Parker and Jenkins split the main force to set up ambushes on both sides of the path the beastmen had been using. 2.5 hours later, Clay confirmed the pigheads were less than 30 minutes away, still following the same route back. The captured serfs were in the middle of their column. I told Clay to shout for any human serfs to drop flat on both sides of the road once fighting started. Beyond that, there wasn't much I could do to protect them. When the pigheads entered the kill zone, I opened with my enchanted bow, dropping the 2nd-rank scout leader with a single shot. The archer squads immediately hit the rear of their column. Chaos erupted. Parker and Jenkins charged from both flanks. Mia locked onto the third-rank chief. I kept the chief pinned with regular arrows to stop him from rallying his troops. When he finally broke free to charge at me, Mia intercepted him. I switched to my enchanted bow and put an arrow through his chest. Then Mia cut off both his legs. I finished him with another shot, 100 energy essence secured. Clay killed the two first-rank pig heads. With all their leaders dead, the beastmen panicked and ran forward, straight into Creel's pit traps. His company mopped up the survivors. We lost 2 soldiers. I stood over their bodies in silence. War always has a cost. The rescued serfs numbered 280 out of 312, surprisingly low casualties for such a chaotic battle. Clay explained that the captured bandits had been frantically directing the serfs to lie flat during the fighting, which saved most of them. That caught my attention. Bandits protecting serfs? I went to talk to the 2 captured bandit leaders, first-rank warriors named Gady and George. They insisted they weren't real bandits. They'd been framed by their military superior and fled into the mountains. In 2 years, they'd never robbed anyone, surviving purely through farming and foraging. They'd made a promise to protect the serfs under their care. I'd sent Clay to quietly verify their story with the rescued serfs while I questioned them. When Clay came back, he confirmed it was all true. These men had genuinely spent 2 years in the wilderness without committing a single crime, and they'd risked their lives keeping those serfs safe during the battle. Now that was interesting. Honest fighters with loyalty and principles. Exactly the kind of people I needed. After Clay confirmed the bandits' story through separate interviews with the serfs, all accounts matching perfectly, I was genuinely surprised. These really were honest men who'd kept their principles for 2 years in the wilderness. I asked them to explain their background. What they told me was remarkable. They were originally from the 3rd Company of Grey Fortress's 8th Battalion. Their captain, Hildy, was the 2nd-rank warrior, the same bandit leader we'd killed weeks ago. Gady and George had been elite squad leaders under him. 2 years ago, Odin arrived at the fortress and brought Riga with him. Riga took over the 3rd Company as captain, pushing Hildy down to deputy. When Hildy refused to join Odin's faction, Riga framed him and his men during a mission, pinning them with charges of colluding with bandits. Unable to return to the fortress, Hildy took Gady, George, and 10 surviving soldiers and hid in a bandit hideout in the Grey Mountains. The irony was staggering. We'd killed Riga ourselves, and we'd likely killed the very same 3rd-rank bandit they'd originally been framed with. I told them I wouldn't punish them and offered to recruit them into Storm territory, 10-year contracts with full military pay. Their only concern was Odin and Riga finding them, since Grey Fortress was so close. Clay cut in with fresh news. Odin had already been transferred away from the fortress, and Riga was dead. Both men went pale with shock, then dropped to their knees and swore loyalty. They said they could tell I was a merciful lord because I'd cared about the serfs' safety during the battle. They had 8 newer recruits still with them. It was bittersweet. Hildy and all their original comrades from the 3rd Company had died fighting the pigheads. Only Gady and George survived from the old squad. The battle results came in: 206 pigheads killed, including all 4 professionals. 71 captured alive. We seized 65 swords, 124 spears, 53 leather armor sets, 3 iron armor sets, plus over 50 tons of grain. Our losses were just 2 dead. I awarded 5 collective 9th-class merits and ordered everyone to head home. We made it out of the mountains by nightfall and camped at our staging area for the night.